And live again.
Yes, sir. Once
Rooted
again, it's on.
Rooted in Sports Monday. I know we're about 10 minutes late. Just excuse us. We run into some technical difficulties. I got kidnapped by some ninjas and I had to fight my way out of captivity and make it back so I can service you guys on this Monday.
I had to fly out and help them. Needless to say, they was getting the best of them. I had to go ahead and jump in.
He had to, yeah, man.
He wasn't quite King Tiberius anymore.
Yeah, I needed some backup. But no, it's always good. It's been a long weekend. A lot of sports stuff happened. Surprisingly, because we're thinking it's just the NBA Finals, but it's so much stuff that's been kind of coming to a head in the sports world, even on the football side as well. So
Oh
we
yeah.
got some fun topics to talk about today.
Oh yeah. A lot of guys been bumping their gums. So we got a few comments that we're gonna dive into and give our little takes about. Obviously, we're gonna talk about the NBA Finals. We got our rooted in basketball segment coming up, where we're
Mm-hmm.
going over the NBA draft. Which, by the way, NBA draft is on a holiday this year. Because you know, a real a real star was born that day, June 23rd. That's a great day. It's a great day.
Was it was Michael
You
Jordan
would-
born that day? Was Tony Romo?
oh
I
no,
mean, like,
man.
yeah.
I don't know. Like some people call him Swan Don. Some people.
Oh, okay,
It,
him too.
it's
Okay.
it's it's neither here nor
So when
there.
they
But
have the celebrity, so when they had a celebrity birthday, you somewhere in that list,
when
right?
you look up June 23rd and you see OI, we're right there. You know what I'm saying?
That's why I
but
done,
but
right?
but man, really excited about this rooted in basketball segment that we're gonna get into, and we're gonna talk about some comments from Jack Del Rio, our NBA finals recap. We're gonna talk about game 4. Obviously, game 5 will probably be starting while we on the air.
Hmm.
And yeah, man, it's gonna be a phenomenal episode, man. So yeah, I'm excited, bro.
I am too. So let's get into Isaiah Kidd. So
Mr.
let's get
Kid,
into let's get into the intro and let's jump into it.
let's do it.
And we're back just that quick. The intro is booming just like it always is every
Word.
single every single episode. Hey, I was talking to Swan before we went on live, and I posted, I was promoting Rooted in Sports on my IG story, and I had to go ahead and put that Mississippi Pride from Pete Valley. Shout out to Pete Valley, all my Pete Valley fans. I've been going hard watching it. It's back
Man,
season 2. So yeah, I enjoyed that. So yeah,
man, I've been at the Pank every Sunday. I've been at the Pank.
every Saturday night if you're on the right platform, right?
Man, look, I'll tell you
Definitely.
what, man.
Mhm.
I ain't gonna lie, boy. Oh, Clifford be having me weak, man. Shout out to that whole cast, man. They doing their thing, man. Wonderful show. And if you haven't watched
Uh-huh,
it yet, P Valley is on Stars.
uh-huh.
Y'all check it out, man. It's a great show. Great show. It's not for the kids though. It's not for the kids though. It's
Not
not.
at all. Yeah, lead them in the room.
Word,
Yeah,
word.
but I guess we got to jump into some action, and this is crazy, man. Like I said, obviously we're gonna talk about some comments from my guy,
Mhm.
Mr. Jack Del Rio, which kind of hurts because I'm a USC guy. He went to USC.
Mhm.
He played about 10 years for the league. I know he played for Dallas, played for Minnesota, just to name a few. But
Mhm.
he made some very controversial comments that kind of, I mean, I guess I can't say it's out of character because Jack Del Rio's always been outspoken.
Mhm.
But he comes out and he basically compares. Um, he says basically if we're looking into so much into the January 6th, basically when people attack the U.S. Capitol,
Mhm.
this was, and what he says is if we're looking so much into this, we should look more into protests for
During the
racial
George Floyd riots and all of that.
during racial and social injustice. And man, I'll be honest, that shit kind of threw me off. I said, man, I don't see the
He referred to the actions and everything that went on January 6th. He referred to that as just a little dust
dust
up
up.
or something
He
like that.
calls it.
Yeah,
He called it a dust up.
a little
He
dust up.
called it a dust up. So what that made me think about is okay. There's two ways you can kind of go with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
One, I mean, he that could very well be how he truly feels. And there's a lot of people in our country, unfortunately, that do feel that way. That do feel like they're not very fond of protesting and people standing up for racial and social injustice.
Right.
So they could very well, and it sucks. I'm sure, and a lot of our heroes could feel that way,
Mm-hmm.
or that's one side. So he could be a little racist, right? Or on the other end, he could just be misinformed and uneducated.
Indeed.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me back to you remember when talking about taking the kneel, kneeling during the national anthem or protesting during the national anthem. Drew Brees made some comments about it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say about 2 years ago that ruffled some feathers.
Yeah.
And even some of his teammates. I remember, Malcolm Jenkins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, crying. Yeah, he's being very hurt. But he said something along the lines of, both of my grandfathers fought in the war. My mom and my dad's side, so I take the flag very serious. I don't basically somewhere along the lines he doesn't see how people could protest against the flag.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling people I caught some flack for it, but I wasn't taking up for him. But I was trying to help people see the big picture. And one thing we have to realize about some of these people, especially people that come from a different community, they don't know what it's like to be in our shoes. They don't understand. They don't understand. Like when I told him about Drew Brees, I told my buddy, I said, he's a all-American white guy from Dallas, Texas. What
Yeah.
the hell does he know about racial injustice? And I mean, probably the most adversity he dealt with was being too small, or obviously when he hurt his arm and he had to repair his career. But that's the adversity that he knows.
But at
So
least for him, I feel like at least for him, because he has those ties to the military, with his family and everything. I mean, at least I can kind of understand why he felt so strongly on one side. At least there is some sort of insight there. I just the correlation that Jack Del Rio was trying to make between what happened January 6th at the at the Capitol and what was happening during those riots for George Floyd's death, I don't see any correlation there. It was almost like he was trying to imply that one was just as serious or worse than the other. I would say, in my eyes, I would say that he was trying to imply that the George Floyd protest was worse than what was going on January 6th. And I would say that because he just called it a little dust up, And I mean, how do you I mean, from what I've seen, like 5 people lost their lives.
yeah.
And I think 2 or 3 of those were cops.
Yeah.
So
and I remember Chris Evans, who everyone knows as Captain America, was on Twitter, and he tweeted something along the lines of if these were black people or African Americans, were whatever you would classify it as, would the same patience be exercised? Because
he tweeted that during during what was
during
going on the 6th, on January 6th.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were using a lot of restraint and a lot of patience with these people, and obviously a vast majority, I ain't gonna say all, but probably a good vast majority of these people were of Caucasian descent, or they're white people. And a lot of patience was used, and these people stormed the nation's capital. I'd never seen nothing like it. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. But it was some people were praising it, and But that was an example of what do you call it? Domestic terrorism.
It was
Yeah.
absolutely terrorism. And this is why I say, I felt like he was trying to make this correlation between the two, but I don't see how he can compare the two, because let me say this, um a lot of times when you hear people say on that side of the fence, when you hear them say, blue lives matter, or all lives matter, or something like that,
We know what it means.
I think that they also would like it to be known that in their minds, of course there's a couple bad apples,
Right.
but they don't want that to be the overall view of the majority. And I feel like it's the same way with some of the protests, especially with the George Floyd stuff and when all that was going on.
Right.
Obviously, there are some bad apples. We all know that there are individuals that are going to, take those what were supposed to have been peaceful protests. There are some people that are going to take those
Take it overboard.
opportunities and break into stores and destroy property and mess up businesses, all of that. You know what I'm saying? We know that there are people that are going to do that. But at the end of the day, what you were seeing there was a reaction and an outcry about yet another person of color losing their lives at the hands of the police. What we seen on January 6th was
privilege.
A former president incite a group of people about an election that he flat out lost fair and square. And he incited these group of individuals to go down to the nation's capital and bomb rush the joint. You know what I'm saying? Like
and never seen nothing like it. And by the way,
you see that in a third world country or something. This is America.
Yeah, I never
seen it. They were doing
here.
this here in America. And like you said, like Chris Evans says, they because you have to say that the color of their skin played a part.
They were white. Let's be honest. Let's keep it above.
The people there, even the cops there, showed so much restraint. There were individuals there armed. There were a slew of armed individuals at the nation's capital.
Hey, and Lord, forgive me. I got to say this. Lord, forgive me for this, because I don't want to laugh because somebody's life. But I guess one of the ladies that stormed the nation's capital wound up getting shot. She died.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards, people was online talking about, say her name.
Come on, man. I know you lying.
And Lord forgive me, because I'm not trying to laugh because that's somebody's life.
I know you lying.
No, they were like,
it's not, and I'm not trying to laugh. I don't laugh at someone losing their life. No one deserves to lose their life. But just to bring it all back full circle, the fact that Jack Del Rio can begin to try to compare what happened because of how a certain group of individuals felt about a man losing an election fair and square to what happened when the umpteenth person of color has lost their life to police brutality. You got to forgive me if I just don't see the correlation. And he's out of line, you know what I'm saying? But he, once again, he's just showing his true colors, and because of the tone of what's going on in this nation, even in my own personal life, I'm starting to see a lot of people that doesn't have the same hue as me, who I always thought, I felt, fairly cool about them or fairly confident about them. But one man, Donald Trump, has almost inspired a nation full of individuals to show their true colors about how they truly felt about people of color.
Hey, but I tell you this, you actually gotta, you actually gotta thank him for that. I like this. I like to know people's true colors. I mean, that's the thing. What? My boy Ronald jumped in with us.
Shout out to Ronald, man. Hey, great article too, man. I checked the article out this morning, man. Great article, bro.
Really great article.
On one of the draft prospects.
But And no, like I said, I actually appreciate that. I appreciate that. I think it's good to know how people really think, and and this is where we have to get better. As a country, and even talking about sports, whether it be NBA or NFL, whatever, everybody comes from different backgrounds, and that's just the God's honest truth. Me and you were in the Navy. I think we can go ahead and
Mhm.
agree that we've worked with individuals that we never in our lives thought we would ever work with.
Oh yeah, they pride themselves
So,
on diversity. The
diversity.
military as a whole
Uh,
prides itself on
uh,
diversity.
So I'm very unpopular in this way of thinking where if a person is if they are, if they have a little racism in their system, they grew up a little differently than me,
Hmm.
I'd rather you just be upfront about it. Just let me know up front. There could still be a respect factor.
Yeah.
I actually have I actually have like a pseudo friend that is a racist, and I mean that's just our relationship. But I understand where he stands, and he understands where I stand. There's a genuine respect. Um, but not to just go too hard on Jack Del Rio, but his
Well, no.
comments.
Wait, but
Yeah.
before I have a question though. In you
Okay.
know what I'm saying, in that same realm. So if you are a player on the Washington Commanders, I was finna say the former name on the Washington Commanders, right? If you're a player on that team, how do you play for him? Or how do you allow yourself, especially a person of color, a black person, how do
Mhm.
you allow yourself to really truly be coached up by this man or be motivated by this man? Like how do
Th-
you when you secretly kind of not so much secretly anymore, but when in the back of your mind, like,
This is
he
how he
he's
thinks.
on the other side of the fence, you know what I'm saying? He's not for me nor the plight of my people, you know what I'm saying? He could care less. You know what I'm saying? He's showing his colors. How do you be coached up by that guy?
All right, so I'll say this. Okay, one, that's where I think maturity comes into play, and that's why I love football. I love all sports, but I love football because to me, football can bring people together in ways that most sports cannot. Um, and when you prioritize, okay, and Jonathan Allen, I think, answered it in a very mature way. He said, "I don't care about what he thinks. I just care about his coaching and basically him helping us win games." Like that's the Jack Del Rio that I'm worried about. Sometimes, unfortunately, and I hate to okay, I hate to use this word, but let's think about R. Kelly. You're a Chicago guy. Sometimes you got to be able to separate the man and the monster.
but I
Yeah.
can't help but believe, you're in a situation and okay, you're not playing up to par or whatever, and he goes to really try to get in you, and in the back of your mind, it's like, bro, I can't take that from you because I don't respect you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I
I,
think this
I
is
show you respect, but as an individual, I don't respect you or your views as an individual. You know what I'm saying? I
eh,
just I
mhm.
just think I can see where it can be kind of a struggle for some players to really give their all for him.
And I think it's something that they should address head on. But hey, I mean, stuff like this makes teams better. It makes people kind of come closer together because the truth
Mhm.
is he's going to have to answer to them. There's going to have to be an explanation, and
Mhm.
and they're going to at the end of the day, if they want to win games or if they want to proceed and they want to move forward, they're going to have to make peace with either his explanation or who they feel like he really is. I'll be honest. I think if we were really to reveal everyone that kind of thinks that way in the National Football League or in sports, period, I
Mhm.
mean, we'd probably be out of a hell of a whole lot of great sports figures. I think we'd be disappointed.
And just for the record, you don't see him losing his job over this. I know they just fined him $100,000, but you don't see him losing his job over this.
I think he'll make it. I think he'll make it by the hair of his chinny chin chin. Um, I don't think this is. I don't think he'll lose his job. I know, Ed Reed is like pissed. I know Ed
Yeah,
Reed's came out. He said
I've
he's
heard some. Yeah, I've heard a few
yeah.
things. Yeah,
He's mentioned and said what happened with the Gruden case. Oh, that's still going.
yeah, they're yeah.
Yeah, that
Or
is
or
that's
or with the owner, I believe they're still researching some of those emails and really digging deep
yeah.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently it's a lot of names in those emails, so it's not like it's just him. So that's gonna be like that might be a 2 to 3 year process. That's gonna be
We're
a multiple.
the
Yeah,
the the
go ahead.
Commanders are really turning into a real shit show.
Oh, they're a terrible organization.
They're
a terrible
like,
organization.
and I've never been a huge fan of Snyder anyway, but I mean they're turned into a real live shit show for real.
Hey, look, ask Ronald. I don't know if Ronald's watching. He got a chance to Ronald got a chance to intern with them, so I know he's a big Dan Snyder fan. Like I'm joking around, but he did intern with them. I don't know if he's a big fan, but yeah. So I know they fined him $100,000 and it kind of gave him a slap on the wrist, and he came out. He gave an apology.
I think that was forced. I think they kind of told him because honestly, I think we've seen how he feels. That's how he feels.
Of course,
but like you said, you did make a point. At least I guess is at least it's better now that
he said, "Hey, you stop it."
I guess at least it's better now that you know it. You know what I'm saying? So now you can just kind of move accordingly, I suppose.
Well, the difference is, and both said the NBA forced the Clippers owner to sell, right?
Well, I think it's because that's still an investigation, though. Still ongoing.
And plus his situation and his words were a lot more harsh.
The former, not Ballmer,
Donald Sterling.
Sterling, yeah.
I think his words were a lot more harsh, and but his are more surface. And once again, he'll catch some backlash. Obviously, he got the fine, and we'll see what comes next. Maybe at a minimum they'll be forced to suspend him. But I think what they'll do is, look, Jack Del Rio will be in the booth. If he wasn't in the booth before, he gonna be in the booth. He gonna be in the booth this season.
You say he will be on the sideline.
They would not have that man on the sidelines. That man will be in the booth, overlooking everything. So, but I think things like this are very good for progression. I'm all about getting the cat out the bag. Hey, if this is how you think and this is what you believe, first of all, either way it goes, you're miseducated or you were taught the wrong way. But I would rather be upfront about it than conceal it and maybe it come out later. Because obviously look at John Gruden. John Gruden was like ESPN's darling, NFL's baby, and then it comes out and it looks really ugly. So I mean,
I'm not sure if he'll ever get another job in the NFL realm.
No, but he'll get paid.
No.
he'll get
that's
paid.
All that matters, huh? At the end of the day. All right, man. Well, I'm sorry. We just had to go ahead and discuss that a little bit. Now we're gonna kind of get on the field, and we're gonna discuss a few things going on with Kenny's team. These old, Dallas Cowgirl. Oh boy, excuse me.
Hey, watch
these Dallas Cowboys, and word on the street is apparently they're looking into getting Tony Pollard more touches, and that could involve him possibly taking snaps at wide receiver. Now, when I heard this is what I'll say. Now, offline, me and Kenny have definitely went back and forth on Ezekiel Elliott and what we both seem to think that he still has or doesn't have. I'm not going to say that I'm not pro Ezekiel Elliott, but let's just say Kenny is definitely pro Zeke. I've told him, what I'm saying, I think that Zeke's kind of lost a little bit of a step, and I think that's part of the reason why they want to get Tony Pollard more touches. I say all that to say that when I originally heard this story, I thought to myself, hey, okay, maybe they possibly want to find a way to keep Zeke on the field or have them both on the field and still be able to get Pollard a few more touches. But then what I also thought was that, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, Michael Gallup probably won't be ready to go at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, he's looking at being on PUP probably.
So I also was thinking, maybe they think they can kind of slide him in and, help out at the wide receiver position because, and you would know their depth chart a little better than I do, but it seems like CeeDee Lamb, and then, I know they still got Dalton Schultz, who I am a fan of. I think he's consistently improving. I think he's possibly a Pro Bowl tight end this year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess they figure they can maybe try to use Tony Pollard similar to the way New Orleans uses Alvin Kamara and gets him out, you know what I'm saying, in the slot and whatnot. So what were your thoughts on this, man? The pro Dallas Cowboys guy.
Well, first of all, you know, I try to talk about my Cowboys as least as possible, so I don't want to seem like a homer or be biased or anything. Because I just love
You? But
me. No, never. But no, because I love the game more than I love my Cowboys. But when talking about this particular topic and giving Tony Pollard more snaps at the wide receiver position, I think is genius. Because what you're doing is you're utilizing him what he was drafted to actually do. You know, I think people don't realize that Tony Pollard has surprised people with how good of a running back that he is. Because at Memphis, he was a gadget player. He was on kick return. He was in a running back rotation of I want to say 2 to 3 running backs that are actually actively in the league right now playing. Henderson for the Rams and Antonio Gibson. They were all at Memphis together, and they all shared snaps. So he was a gadget guy. He wasn't anybody that they felt was going to come in and be a bell cow type of back. So what they're doing is I think finally they're using the initial plan because he was, from my understanding, he was a Kellen Moore pick. Kellen Moore kind of got the call on that, and that's why they drafted Tony Pollard. Mm-hmm. So it's smart because you're preserving Tony Pollard's body. You're giving him more touches, but you're also helping to preserve his body. What I've been trying to explain to people is that, you know, they're so gung ho on getting on starting Tony Pollard over Ezekiel Elliott, and they're not looking at the big picture. One, Zeke, you know, obviously coming off of an injury-riddled season, is the more durable back, and he's the back that's built to take on that type of punishment. Playing football, playing any sport, you have to prepare your body to take on a certain type of volume. And Tony Pollard, up until this point in his career, he's never taken that type of volume. He at Memphis, he never got more than 40 carries in the season. And then last year, he gets the most carries he ever got in his entire life with 130, and he missed 2 games. So what I explain to people all the time is that it's not a coincidence. You made a comparison to Alvin Kamara, which I loved. That was his player comp for me when he was coming out in the draft. Both 3rd-round picks and both multi-tool guys that you can use in a variety of different ways. But Alvin Kamara is similar in that way, where Alvin Kamara's always split carries. Alvin Kamara has never in his life been a full-time back. Maybe in Pop Warner, but he did it at Tennessee. He came into the league and he had Mark Ingram with him. And then his carries increased over the year. They moved him around, let him play some wide receiver. He did kick return. But one thing so let's look at Alvin Kamara. So his rookie year, he gets 120. He goes from 120 to 194, 171 his second year, right? His third year, or his 4th year, 187. And this year that just passed, which was his 5th season, he got 240 carries. Okay, guess what? He got 240 carries. He missed 5 games, and he was banged up most of the season. They let Latavius Murray go going into the season.
I like this one too, Austin Eckler.
Right, I can see that. I can see that. But with Alvin Kamara, he was banged up a lot because his body wasn't used to the volume. Once they let Latavius Murray go, I said, "Oh, they're going to run this brother into the ground." And they gave him so many carries, and his body just didn't respond well to it. That's why he was like, "Bring Mark Ingram back." They traded for Mark Ingram midseason and brought him back to New Orleans. So what I tell people with Tony Pollard, who's so quick on the gun because he's an explosive, exciting back, you don't want to see Tony Pollard with 200 plus carries. He's probably going to miss. I hate to say it, but he'll probably miss 5 to 6 games, or he just won't be as explosive because he'll be banged up. Let Zeke do the heavy lift and take on the heavy workload. A healthy Zeke can take 20, 25 carries to the neck, right? Still have 1,000 yards. He'll take all that he'll dish out punishment, but he'll take on some punishment from the defense, and that'll free Tony Pollard up to get his maybe run for about 10 carries. And then it'll also give him some touches as a receiver. And he's such an explosive talent that he can score anytime he gets the football. So that is the best way for me to maximize Tony Pollard, increase his impact, but you're not running him into the ground and putting him at harm's risk.
So Do you see the Cowboys becoming, with this move, and especially early season, do you see them becoming a little more of a heavier offensive team? You know what I'm saying? And then seeing how they just paid Dak all his money last year, I mean, it might be time for him to kind of earn it. Do you see them coming a little bit more of a pass happy team?
No. I think they're. I think.
Do you see Zeke's carries decline?
No. I think what they wanted to do was run the football. Like they wanted to run the football last year, and if you look at early in the season, they were at their best when they were able to run the football. But what
I
happened?
think that's always been the case, though.
But,
And no shade at Dak. You know what I'm saying? I think Dak is an incredible quarterback, and crazy enough, I still think that some of Dak's best days are still ahead of him. But with that being said, I've always felt like the Cowboys have always been more successful when they run first, when they don't necessarily have to depend on him. You know what I'm saying?
Well, this is the way I phrase it. When you look at the National Football League as a whole, even outside of the Cowboys, the only teams that can get away with being a pass first offense are teams with how can I say this, transcendent offensive play callers.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only ones that can get away with not having a running game. I look at Kansas City. Look at the Bills with Brian Daboll. Look at the Rams this past season with Sean McVay. Only guys that are offensive geniuses are able to manufacture and still produce offensively without a running game. Kellen Moore, unfortunately, isn't that. So pretty much a good 95% of teams are going to need a running game. That's not just a product of Dallas or Dak. That's everybody's going to need a running game. So, but you look at the type of system that Kellen Moore runs. He runs more of like a faceless, basically an undefined offense where it just offers so many different options. But that running game is really what opens everything up, because if you have a running game, teams aren't going to play two high safeties on you. They're gonna play single high because they're walking somebody down. So I think, as a matter of fact, early in the year, especially while Michael Gallup is hurt, you'll see them put more emphasis on running the football with Zeke and Tony Pollard. And then obviously they'll give Tony Pollard additional opportunities in the passing game. Now, if I'll say this, don't be surprised if you see Zeke's receiving numbers drop because Tony Pollard is taking more volume and taking more opportunities in those aspects.
Do you think I know it's a little off topic, but do you think that Mike McCarthy is on the hot seat?
Unfortunately, yeah. But unfortunately, yes. I think they like him. He's obviously and this is sick to say, but he's an improvement over Garrett. That's just how average Jason Garrett was as a head coach. But he has some things he has to clean up.
And ironically, if I remember correctly, I think he's about to take Drew. Is it Drew Brees? He's going he's taking Drew Brees' spot, right?
Yeah, was it NBC? I think I want to say
with NBC. Yeah.
So, he is. He's and I don't know how this is gonna work out, because I've never thought of Jason Garrett as like a great talker, but look, to each his own. Get your money.
Right.
So, but Mike McCarthy, he's probably a little bit on the hot seat. They keep saying that they're not worried about Sean Payton, but where there's smoke, there's fire. Sean Payton he pretty much started his career in Dallas. Was probably well in line of being, if not a head coach, the offensive coordinator. And then he left, obviously went to New Orleans and took the job there. So Jerry Jones, the Jones family still has a lot of love for him and a lot of admiration for him, his offensive mind and the things that he's done in the game. So, and plus I would love him for Tony Pollard. Look at what
I was just about to say. I mean, considering what he was able to do with Alvin Kamara, I think when we talk about using Tony Pollard at the wide receiver position, I think that would be, almost match made in heaven if they can get Sean Payton in there and the things that he could probably do with a Tony Pollard and with the offense, as a whole. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think the world of that. I do think that CeeDee Lamb will be a really good receiver. I don't know if he's transcendent yet, but I do think he will be I can see him being a top 10 receiver in this league. I'm not sure. And then I know you know better than me. Outside of Gallup, I was trying to think about what other wide receivers they have, because I think Cedric Wilson left as well.
Yeah, well, they drafted
Obviously, we know
Jalen.
they
They drafted a kid, Jalen Tolbert, out of Southern Alabama.
okay.
You know, they signed. I'm forgetting this. James, uh, the right receiver from Pittsburgh. They signed him. He's kind
James
of
Washington.
James Washington. There you go. Played for
Yeah.
Oklahoma State. Won the
Mm-hmm.
Biletnikoff. So he has some value. More of a possession guy. He can do some things. Funny enough, he's not really fast, but he's a deep ball guy. Can track the ball very well in the air. So he has some game to him. And then obviously they're going to give more opportunities to Dalton Schultz. He said Washington was a great pickup. He was. He was a pretty good pickup. I'm excited about him. They'll give Dalton Schultz some more opportunities, and obviously, Tony Pollard's going to get the more of the lion's share of touches in the passing game and in the running game. So they got some good things figuring out. I think they'll be able to weather the storm until Michael Gallup gets back. But Tony Pollard obviously is going to be a big part of that of kind of holding down the fort until he gets back.
Real quick before we move on from the Dallas Cowboys, real quick, honest opinion. Do you think the Cowboys are still the best team in the division, and do they win the division this year?
I think they won the division, but I think it's tighter. And I'll say this: the division isn't as bad as everybody thinks it is. First of all,
I don't think they are now. With the moves Philadelphia has made, I don't think they are now.
Well, last year they weren't. I tell people
they did make 9-8. I think they made the playoffs.
Yeah, you had two teams out of the NFC East make the playoffs, and then you had Washington that was actually in playoff contention and beat 2 or 3 playoff teams. Actually, I want to say Washington beat more playoff teams than Dallas did. So it's gonna. I could see Dallas winning for the first time because the NFC East hasn't had back-to-back winners in the better part of, I want to say, 20, 25 years. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see Dallas repeating, but I think it's going to be tough. I think Philly will be better. I think the Giants will be better. I'm a big believer in Brian Daboll and some of the things that he could probably do with Daniel Jones.
I'm done with Daniel Jones, man.
Look, man. Sometimes quarterbacks that struggle and are talented, if they get the right coach. I mean, hell, look at Alex Smith when Jim Harbaugh got there. Alex Smith was a bust. Jim Harbaugh goes there, gives him confidence. I remember he used to pat him on the shoulder pads before every single game, and he really turned Alex Smith's career around to maybe not ever being a great quarterback, but a pretty damn good one, a serviceable one that could help you win a whole hell of a lot of games. And he also made 2 or 3 Pro Bowls as well. So I think Daniel Jones is still young. He still has talent. And Brian Daboll is a great offensive mind. Look what he did with Josh Allen. Josh Allen, to me, if Josh Allen doesn't go to the right system, back-to-back 12-win seasons for Mike, I can see it. Back-to-back 12, I can see it. But so I think Brian Daboll will do wonders with Daniel Jones. The division will be better. Washington will still be competitive. I don't think that they'll win a lot of games. I think they'll probably win about 6 or 7 games. But they're just tough enough on defense that they're going to smack somebody around. And Carson Wentz is just talented enough that he'll have 2 or 3 big games. I also think he's going to possibly wind up losing that job to Sam Howell somewhere down the line, or Taylor Heineke. So, that's the NFC East. Not to do a full NFC East breakdown. I know we're just talking about Tony Pollard, but I'm excited for what the NFC East holds amongst the divisions in the NFL as a whole.
I agree. I do think the Cowboys do repeat as division winners. I think it will be tougher. And if I'm being honest, because I think, although I think they'll repeat as division winners, if I'm being honest, I think they've lost some really key pieces. And I don't think this team is quite as good as last year's team. But I think the reason that I am still picking them is because they still, to me, have the best quarterback in the division. And that's Dak Prescott. And I think Dak could kind of hold them afloat. I think Michael Gallup will be a big piece of them offensively. And I think Dak could kind of hold them afloat. Michael Gallup gets back, and I think you'll really start to see that offense open up, really become one of the better units in football. And I think ultimately down the stretch, I think they'll win. I say I don't think they go 12-5 again. I see maybe I think they go 10-7. I think
with that schedule,
I think they go 10-7. I think Philly probably goes 10-7, but I think Dallas has the tiebreaker.
Okay,
I
you
think
know
it's
what?
gonna be close.
I'll take some damn parity, but I don't like the 10 wins, but it is what it is. We'll see what happens. It's gonna be exciting. Pressure bust pipes, not people. And for Dallas, just ending on this, to me, they don't need to be more talented. You can have the most talented team on the football field, but if you don't have any structure, or you don't have any any type of an identity,
Mm-hmm.
you'll lose more. You'll lose more often than not, and that's what happened to them later on down the stretch. So hopefully hopefully, from my understanding, Tony Pollard, maybe CD Lamb can be a big part of developing a new identity of how they want to attack defenses this year. So,
Word.
yep. But that
All
is
right.
football. That is our football fix. We got our
Oh
football
yeah.
fix
Oh
out the
yeah.
way.
We gotta get a little bit of football in, man. And
Yeah.
without further ado, though, we gonna switch it. We're gonna flip the script, get into a little basketball, and obviously the hottest thing going right now, probably in sports, is the NBA Finals. Um, Game 5. I think Game 5 probably just tipped off,
Just
but
started. Yep.
we gonna go ahead and get into a little coverage and give our thoughts on Game 4. Um, Golden State won Game 4, 107-97 to tie the series up 2-2, heading back to Golden State. I think the highlight, the big story from this Game 4 has to be Steph Curry. I mean, 14 for 26 from the field, 7 for 14 from three, 43 points, 10 rebounds. And I mean, the man just the man made every major play that you can ask for, even down the stretch, even in the fourth quarter. He did all you can ask for him. And I think that they literally won this game because of Steph Curry. Like as far as, other X's and O's, I mean, I really can't. Jason Tatum still hasn't had that game yet. He still hasn't had that, okay, he's a superstar game yet. But yeah, man, I mean, this was just a prime example of a great player not letting his team lose.
And I'm gonna tell you this. I say this every time. We've discussed them and we've talked about these. He says 6 points in 7 minutes. I say this every time we cover the Celtics. They're so maddening to me, and it's because they're so damn inconsistent. But one thing I realized, and I had to kind of key in on it because I'm like, what are they missing? They can shoot. They have size in the wing. They have pretty good bigs, even though they're not tall. They have long wingspans. They can guard the rim. They can grab boards. Robert Williams and Al Horford. But what I realized is that they really don't know how to close out games. Like
They
they're
don't.
terrible at it.
And I think part of that is because they don't necessarily have a true point
Point
guard
guard to put them in
who
position.
can. Mm-hmm.
Well, my thing is, if that's the case, you look at when things have gone best for them offensively is when they really kind of operate from the paint and then kind of kick it out, dish it out. If they run a lot of stuff through Al Horford, I think that's where most of their success comes. When they I'll be honest, when they put the ball in Jason Tatum's hands, sometimes he looks
Mm-hmm.
like a deer in headlights. Sometimes,
Or
like he doesn't know.
even worse than that, sometimes Marcus Smart just doesn't make great decisions offensively.
No,
There was a moment, there was one possession I vividly remember down the stretch of that game. Um, they passed it around, they moved it around. He took a tough contested three. He missed it. They got the offensive he took that shot early in the shot clock. They got the offensive rebound, kicked it back out to him, and he shot it again and missed both times. And this was down the stretch in the fourth quarter. And I mean, I think that he has to realize that in that situation, they really need a better shot or a better opportunity. And I think that they need that opportunity created from one of their guys. I think in that situation, he has to find a way to get the ball into Jason Tatum's hands or Jaylen Brown's hands, who, for me, if the Boston Celtics win this series, Jaylen Brown's MVP.
oh, he has to be.
Yeah.
He he,
But
he,
yeah,
abs-
I
he
think,
absolutely has to be.
but yeah, I mean, I think that, Marcus Smart, he has to find a way to get the ball into one of those two guys' hands, and then you just operate and play off of them. But like I just said, you're looking at a team that's has a real deficit on, a true point guard. I think that would truly help them.
I don't think they have anybody in that starting lineup that can hang their hat and say that I'm a playmaker.
Yeah.
I don't think they have anybody in that lineup that can do that. And another thing that bothers me, why do they take so many goddamn threes? It kills me.
That's the nature of the league, though, man. That's the nature of the league.
So look, I understand it, but I'm like, you guys are acting like you guys are the 2015 Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
You guys aren't them.
Yeah.
You guys like, and the funny part is I had to break this down because I was having a good heated debate with one of my buddies, and he was saying that is what they do. Like that's their strength. I said it's a difference between.
I don't think that's a strength for them. That's not a strength for them.
And they've had times, and
they've had moments, yeah. Like game one, they shot it well.
It's a difference, and you would agree with this. There's a difference between having guys that can shoot and having shooters.
Shooters, absolutely.
And absolutely. to me, Boston doesn't have anybody in their lineup that you could say, oh, that you would turn around. They pull up and you're gonna turn around. Oh, they got it. No, they don't have anybody in their lineup like that. They have guys that, to me, all their shooters are streaky.
Derek White, Grant Williams, those guys can shoot. Klay Thompson is a shooter. Although he's struggling, he is a shooter. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So
you're still, no matter what he's shooting, you're alarmed when he catches the ball and it comes off his hands. You're shook. Yeah. You're spot on with that.
So, it makes you think like, why aren't, how settle for the mid-range game, drive to the bucket. I mean, it's not like, I hate to say, even though the Warriors are playing good defense, it's not like the paint, they're just so dominant down there in the paint that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can't get in there. Maybe run and do a little bit more things, maybe let Robert Williams rim run, even though he's operating off one leg. But to me, there shouldn't have been any reason why they lost game 4. They should have won game 4 by about 8 points.
Yeah. But it's literally Steph Curry literally, will Golden State to victory. And another thing that I want to point out, Al Horford in game 1, he had that big, 26-point game. I think he hit 6 threes or whatnot. And he's honestly kind of disappeared since then. Even in game 4, he's 2 for 6 from the field. He ends up with 8 points. You know what I'm saying? 2 for 6. All 6 field goal attempts were 3-point attempts. That's it for him. You know what I'm saying? And he ends up with 8 points. And he's really kind of been, dare I say, non-existent since game 1. You haven't really felt an impact from him.
And can I say this? Jason Tatum, well, first of all, a lot of their team, but Jason Tatum probably has some of the worst shot selection I've ever seen in my goddamn life.
He does.
Some of his shot selection are terrible.
But I don't know if it's that Kobe effect or what. Kobe was a notorious tough shot maker. And I've said this about Tatum before. Sometimes I think he purposely wants that tough shot. You know what I'm saying? Like he'll purposely shoot a 30-foot step back. You know what I'm saying? Or he wants to. He could already be having a bad shooting game, and in his mind, he doesn't think, okay, let me try to attack the bucket. Let me try to, get an easy bucket or get to the free throw line or whatnot. In his mind, it's like, okay, hey, the next one's going to go in. I'm going to make this shot even tougher. You know what I'm saying? If I hit one tough shot, boom, I can kind of get it going. And I think that's why in a lot of people's minds, a lot of people are still reluctant to put him in that superstar category or give him that superstar status because he's so up and down. You know what I'm saying? You can see him like in the series against Milwaukee. You can see him go for 40-some points in a pivotal game 6 that they needed. And then you can see what you've seen here in these NBA finals where, he really, especially from the field, when you look at his shooting percentage, like he's yet to have a really, truly, that superstar game. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, his counterpart on the other end, Steph Curry, has yet to have a bad game.
True. And this is what I boil it down to. Boston is the better team from a talent standpoint. Boston is the bigger. Boston is. They have a better defense. I think they have more size and more talent on the perimeter. To me, it's about evenly matched, or you can say that Boston is probably better in the paint. I love what Kayvon Looney does as like a
I do
as a
too.
high effort guy,
Unsung hero.
unsung hero. But I think we can.
And I'm sorry, I got to mention this too. Andrew Wiggins is playing his tail off.
Oh no, and I was gonna say that.
I want to say he had 17 and 14 rebounds the other day.
And he also, as always, has had a valiant effort on Jason Tatum. Has done his best to slow him down.
17 and 16 rebounds.
Right. And Andrew Wiggins, I said this before. Andrew Wiggins has been literally is an important player for them. He's probably the key component for them winning this entire series, because he has to do so. He has to provide as a scorer, and he has to guard a Jason Tatum, and you even see some looks where he's guarding Jaylen Brown. So
yeah,
he's
especially on the defensive end, because I mean, Draymond Green, for all the talk that he's doing, he's been playing terribly. Draymond Green's play has been absolutely atrocious in this finals. Terrible, bro. Terrible, man. He has 2 consecutive games. What he have 2 points the other day? Yeah, he had 2 points the other day, bro.
He was hustling, man.
He still has more fouls than points for the series.
He was hustling. He had 3. He had 2 points.
2 points, man.
But he had 8 assists.
And then, I don't know if you noticed, Steve Kerr went offense for defense with him in that fourth quarter. He sat him in that fourth quarter. He went offense for defense with him in that fourth quarter. And after the game, they asked him about it. And obviously he wasn't too thrilled about it, but he said all the right things. You know what I'm saying? Steve Kerr's my coach. That's his decision. I support him. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, what else could he do? You know what I'm saying? I will say that at the end of the game, he had a really big offensive rebound, and then he caught I think he caught Kayvon Looney for a little dunk or whatever. That was a really big bucket for them. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Draymond Green really has to look in the mirror now. You know what I'm saying? It's time for him to really shut his mouth, tie up his gym shoes, and really go out there and give a concerted effort. And I don't mean that necessarily as far as him scoring points. You know what I'm saying? Because he'll never be the type of guy to score a lot of points. But he needs to make his presence felt defensively. You know what I'm saying? I think he had 8 assists and 9 rebounds. But if you watch that game, all you really remember is him getting in foul trouble. He wasn't even the best. He wasn't even sticking normal Draymond Green defense, because every time Jaylen Brown got isolated on him, Jaylen Brown scored.
Yeah.
He was cooking them. So
he did.
He wasn't even, really sticking. He wasn't even really Draymond Green, the defender that we know. Just looking at that game, you didn't feel his effect on the game. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of rare that you say that about Draymond Green, because you say what you want about him. You know how I feel about him, but he tends to make. He's
a Hall of Famer. Look,
I mean,
as much as we don't
by default.
By default. He's a Hall of Famer. Kyle Lowry's a Hall of Famer.
Oh my God. No, I don't like Kyle Lowry. But in all seriousness, Kyle Lowry's going to get in. Just because
Draymond Green will get in.
His numbers are not. And unfortunately, Draymond Green is going to get in. Everybody's getting in the NBA Hall of Fame. It's really an open door.
It's a free for all.
Everybody's getting in.
Everybody's getting in. It's a free ride.
But because of what Draymond Green, because of his impact on this team, and especially if they win this ring, you have to call him a dynasty. And the dynasty of these Golden State Warriors, he'll get in. But I mean, if you look back on this era, he's not going to be you'll never say he was one of the greatest players of his era or one of the best players of his era. You'll say he was a vital piece to the best team of this era.
It'll be like, this is what it'll be. It'll be like, oh, yeah, they did have Draymond Green. Yeah, he was very important for them. Spread the floor, distributed for him, played a lot of good defense. Yeah, he was good. That's what he'll be.
And there's not there's not even defensively, and he is a pretty sound defender. He once said that he thinks he's the best defensive player ever. God bless his heart.
You
But
got to believe in yourself.
even defensively, there's nothing that Draymond does great. He has a few things that he does well, but there's nothing that Draymond does great. You
I
can
think
say whatever you want
he's
about
just
Dennis Rodman. Offensively, Dennis Rodman was
the best
nothing.
rebounder
But Dennis Rodman is arguably the best rebounder to
of all
ever
time.
play the game, and he's probably a top 10 defender ever.
And there are some people that feel like he's top 2, top 3 as an on-ball defender.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they have that argument. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Draymond Green, he's a product. He was a guy who was drafted to the right situation. He's a product of the situation he's in. You put him on any other team that doesn't have the two greatest shooters in the world, and he's just another guy.
So let me ask you this, because you spoke about earlier. You spoke about Jaylen Brown when Jaylen Brown's been isolated on him, and obviously he's been getting his buckets, and it's looking like if they win, he's the Finals MVP.
Absolutely.
And I asked this on Rooted in the Sports Community on Saturday. You weren't in there. We had Andre came in. We had a really good time. We talked for like
shout out to Andre, man.
we talked for the better part of about four hours. But is it time to start looking at maybe Jaylen Brown could possibly be the better player down the stretch? I know it's still early. They're still young guys. What Jaylen Brown's 24, 25, Jason Tatum's 23, 24. Like, these are young guys. But seeing Jaylen Brown on the biggest of stages really bring himself to the forefront and lead them as a scorer despite any adversity he's going through, do you think that maybe the outlook can change of who's probably the better player?
I still think this is going to be Jason Tatum's team because Jason Tatum has the far more upside offensively. You know,
Okay.
As much as I like Jaylen Brown, as much improvement Jaylen Brown has made to his game, I think the consensus theme is Jason Tatum is still the more polished offensive player, you know. And for that reason, I believe that this will still be, you know, it'll still be thought of as Jason Tatum's, you know, team moving forward. I think if it came down to it and they have to choose one of the two, I honestly think they'll go with Jason Tatum, you know. Because we've seen, like I mentioned before, you know, Jason Tatum, that game 6 against Milwaukee, and he had like 40 some. I don't remember off the top of my head, but you know that was just a glimpse into what they believe and what a lot of people believe Jason Tatum can do for that team, you know, consistently, you know, year in and year out, be that guy in big games who comes up big like that. Jaylen Brown, and once again, I love one of the reasons I love Jaylen Brown is because he does consistently work and get better every year. But with that being said, I don't think he necessarily has the offensive upside or he's the offensive talent that Jason Tatum is. And I think that's why moving forward, it'll probably be Jason Tatum's team. If they had to choose, you know, Lord forbid, if they had to choose between the two, I think they would try to keep Tatum.
So is it me or does Jaylen Brown kind of give you, maybe not exactly the same, but does he kind of remind you of like a Jimmy Butler?
I can see the comparison. I think Jaylen Brown is a little more athletic than Jimmy Butler.
Definitely, yeah.
But yeah, I would even go as so far to say that at this stage, I'd even go so far as to say that Jaylen Brown is a slightly better shooter than Jimmy Butler.
I can see that.
But I think
it's the will. To me, it's the will.
I was just about to say what Jimmy Butler has that Jaylen Brown don't is that Jimmy Butler just has that dog. You know what I'm saying? You can say what you want about his offensive game and whatever offensive deficiencies that you think he have. But when Jimmy Butler puts in his mind that he's the best player on the floor and he's the best player on his team and he's going to go out and score 35, 40, he'll do that.
I genuinely believe, and not to go on too far off to talk about Jimmy Butler, I believe I respect him as a player. I think he's an all-star. Jimmy Butler punches above his weight class. He plays better than he actually is at times, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah. I'll go a step further. if Jimmy Butler is still with the Philadelphia 76ers, they at least make a finals appearance. At least.
I can see that.
I think the 1 year he spent with them was the year Toronto won. I think that was the year they lost game 7 when Kawhi Butler, not Kawhi Butler, Kawhi Leonard hit that game winner that bounced on the rim 7-8 times or something. And I think that was the 1 year he was with them. But I think if they run it back, who knows, man? And obviously we know how Joel Embiid feels about Jimmy Butler. He loves
him.
Butler.
Yeah, he loves him. He don't want to get rid of him.
Yeah, I think he's just that impactful of a player that if he's still in Philly, they might make a finals run.
And I believe this. I think Miami is a scorer away from possibly having a chance to win a championship.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think they definitely need one more piece. What I will say is that, not to get too far off topic, what I will say is that there have been a few rumblings down in Miami that Tyler Herro wants to be a starter next year, and if not, he possibly may want to be moved. So I think that might be something to keep an eye on. But yeah, I do think they could use another scorer and maybe one more. I would say maybe one more big. Not as much as they need that extra scorer, but maybe one more big just to kind of help Bam out, because Bam is literally like their only true big. And even Bam is only about 6'9".
Yeah. He's not that big. Yeah.
So I mean, one another big for them. But even like you said, even more important than that, another guy that they can rely on to be a consistent scorer.
If they could get somebody that, hey, we just need you to get a bucket. Like, that's your job. Don't worry about nothing else.
I'll tell you what, and all reports say that he wants to stay there, but I'll tell you what, just throwing a name out, if they could get Bradley Beal down there, I mean, look out. if they can get him down there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be real nice.
But yeah, I think actually when we did our predictions, I think I actually said that Boston would win game 3 and Golden State would win game 4. Real quick, and I haven't even checked the score or anything. I think Golden State wins tonight. I think I've always said this is going to be a 7-game series. So I think Golden State wins tonight. I think Boston goes back home, has this phenomenal effort. You might get that Jason Tatum game that we were talking about that he hasn't had yet. I think Jason Tatum might win. Boston wins game 6, and I think Golden State wins game 7 at home. But I haven't checked the score. And
well, okay, I'll go ahead and throw it out. So Golden State is up 27-16. So Boston better figure it out, because if Golden State wins this one, it might be good night, Irene.
Yeah, I don't know what type of start Stephen got off to, but I mean, I don't know. I'll say this, I don't know, because I mean, if Boston hasn't shown anything in this playoff series, they've shown that they're a very resilient team.
Oh, they're very resilient, but to me, it's almost like, why do you keep putting yourself through this agony?
Yeah, when they were interviewing Jason Tatum after the game the other day, he basically was saying the same thing. Like, we got to stop putting ourselves in this situation. And one stat that's been floating around that a lot of these NBA analysts have said, the Celtics really kind of kill themselves.
They do.
When they lose every game that they have more than 15 turnovers. And in game 4, they had exactly 15 turnovers. If they can cut down their turnovers, they really don't lose, because they're a best defensive team in the league, stout defensive team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you have 15 turnovers, you're allowing a team like Golden State to get out in transition, and now you're allowing all these shooters to get out and run around and spot up and knock down open shots. Now, you know what I'm saying, you're getting yourself in trouble. So Boston has to cut down on the turnovers.
So turnovers. So let me ask you this: What are some things you think they can do offensively to have a little bit more fluidity?
Boston.
Like what are some things you think they can do, some adjustments they can make to have more fluidity? Because sometimes you watch their offense and it looks like it's broken. It's like they don't know what the
Um,
hell they want to do.
well, although Jason Tatum hasn't shot the ball well, he's shown the ability to be kind of a solid playmaker in the sense that he's been passing it well. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
He's had a few games in this series where he's
10
had,
plus.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think game one he had like 13 assists. He's had another game with 7, 8 assists. So they might want to look into Jason Tatum being their primary ball handler and facilitator, and just letting everyone else play off of him. And with that being said, Jason Tatum has to be aggressive though. He has to come out, aggressive and maybe get a few early buckets and maybe draw a little more of that attention to him. That way, he'll have those open shots for a Grant Williams, for a Derek White. Maybe Marcus Smart can knock a few down. And Al Horford has to find some way to get involved. Like I just said in game 4, he was 2 for 6 from the field. All 6 attempts were from the 3-point line. He only had 8 points. Maybe he needs to, start down low and work himself around the bucket, and maybe try to take advantage of a matchup against, a Draymond Green or whoever. Maybe they can get him in the pick and roll
Which I
and
believe
maybe
he'll win.
kind of dump it down to him. He needs to try to get a few easier buckets, and that way, let the floor of the game come to him, and then he can maybe knock down some from the outside. But the biggest adjustment, I think, is maybe just trying to maybe allowing Jason Tatum to be that primary ball handler and facilitator for him, and see how that goes.
And I'm glad you said that because that's something that I talked about earlier. I just feel like they can do so much more through their bigs.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we know Robert Williams has been phenomenal on the defensive end of the ball, and he's
Absolutely.
literally playing on one leg. Like I think people underestimate how big Robert Williams has been for this team.
Oh yeah.
Some people would argue he's been more impactful than Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year.
And you can make that argument, you know what I'm saying? I mean, especially with the way he's been blocking shots at the rim, with the effort that he's given. And like you said, he's on one leg, you
One
know what I'm
leg.
saying? He had a operation on his knee. I think that was right before the playoffs started.
Oh, yeah.
He had a
Yeah.
little operation on his knee. He's kind of rushed back just to be, a part of this playoff run.
Mm-hmm.
But
And they've been managing them, giving
they
them some
have.
games off. Yeah.
And then another thing that they can do defensively, and I think I spoke about this before on the last podcast. They, I don't think when they're not playing those ball screens correctly with Steph Curry, because it's Steph freaking Curry. If he's coming off any ball screen, that big has to show, you know.
Right.
And in this series, there's been some times where Al Horford and Robert Williams, they failed to show. And in this
Mm-hmm.
series, Steph Curry has made them pay every time. They have to consistently show off those ball screens, run them off that three, make them drive to the bucket. Or when he come off the screen, just blitz him. When he come off that ball screen, just blitz him. Make him throw that ball to Draymond Green and make Draymond Green make the right pass. Or make him throw that ball to Kayvon Looney and make Kayvon Looney make a play from outside of that pick and roll. But you cannot continue to allow Steph to come off that screen and that big man is laying off. Steph, he can shoot it from the logo comfortably. You have to blitz that screen. Either that big
Yeah.
is gonna step up and you're gonna let Steph Curry dance, or in my opinion, you blitz the screen. You come off, double team him off the screen, get the ball out of his hands, make one of those other guys make a play. Clay still hasn't quite, he made a couple big ones the other day, but he still hasn't quite had a Clay game. He's still not quite shooting it in the manner that Clay normally does. So make some of these other guys make some big shots.
And which is true. It's almost like you look at it like Steph Curry has been their only constant. Why would you not apply so much more pressure to him? You're probably never going to get him off his game because he can make tough shots as well. But obviously, there's some things that they can do, like you said. They're having a big show coming off a screen. Like they have to put more things in place to slow them down because Clay hasn't been consistent. We know Draymond gonna give you about 2 to 5 points, 5 points max.
And that's my thing. Just make somebody else beat you.
Right, Jordan Poole.
Somebody else on that team. Yeah,
Jordan Poole he's been up and down.
Exactly. Make somebody else. Steph, as of right now, at this point in the series, Steph has been the best player in the series. So here we are at game 5 now. We're in game 5 tonight. It's you're tied 2-2. It's a best of 3 series now. Make somebody else beat you. Plain and simple.
Charge of time. So okay. So what are some things? Okay, so what is your prediction? You said you have Golden State winning this game.
Yeah, I think Golden State wins tonight at home. I think Boston goes back home for game 6, has this phenomenal effort. Don't be surprised if that game is a blowout. Don't be surprised if Boston wins big in game 6. And then it sets up, best 2 words in sports, a game 7, and Golden State. And like I said previous to the series, because I said it was going to be a 7-game series, I think Golden State just kind of harps back on what happened to them in 2016 in a game 7 at home. And I think they remember that, and they go out of their way to make sure that they don't have that feeling again. I think that you'll see the more experienced team, the team with the championship pedigree, pull through. And I think Golden State wins this series in 7.
And
a tough game 7 too, a 3-4 point game.
And I'm gonna tell you this: if it does unfold that way, because obviously we've had enough conversations. I've had Boston the entire playoffs, entire NBA playoffs. I've had Boston. They have to be tired of being. Oh, no worries. They'll win. They'll win next year. They'll win in 2. They have to be tired.
Oh yeah, they cannot. They can't have that.
You have to be tired of that. Like you guys have been doing this for 3-4 years. Like it's time to win one now. And that's what's once again is so maddening and so upsetting about some of their performances, because to tell you the truth, there are times where they really have their foot on Golden State's throat, but they just can't capitalize.
Absolutely. There's times during the game where you just like, all right, here it is. Boston's gonna go ahead and break this open. But then they start turning the ball over and allowing, Golden State to get right back into the game. You know what I'm saying? Even at when they in game 4, they were up 5 at halftime. And so I'm thinking like, okay, I'm interested to see how they're going to come out here in the second half. And, because we know about Golden State and they're notorious for their third quarter runs. And right on cue, right out of halftime, I think Golden State went 7-0 so quick within like the first minute. They 7-0 Golden State and took the lead. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, Boston, they have to cut down on the turnovers. I say they play a little more through Jason Tatum. And then I think on defense, they have to play those screens a little better. Those bigs have to show.
And once again, I think they have to really focus on doing a little bit more in the mid-range game and stop taking so many deep threes. Like if you're hot, you're hot. I get it, but come on, just get some points on the board.
And stop for Jason Tatum. He dribble, step back, take a forced 3. You know what I'm saying? The ball will swing around to Marcus Smart, and he'll take a contested 3. Al Horford's he's been taking contested 3s. All he took was all 6 of his attempts, once again, were from the 3-point line in game 4. So they need to allow those attempts to be able to come in the flow of the offense. You know what I'm saying? And let their defense possibly create offense for them. That's when they're at their best. So, and we'll see what happens.
And just a quick update. Right now, it's 26-32. Maybe for some of you people that are in the future, maybe it's a higher score, but I'm looking at 32-26. Golden State is up. Now for the Celtics, Robert Williams has 8. Remember I told you I said they could do a little bit more through their bigs. Jason Tatum has 8. Jaylen Brown has 4. Marcus Smart has 4. And Al Horford has 2, but he also has 3 rebounds as well. So my thing is if they make some adjustments, if they run a little bit more through they have good bigs, man.
They do.
They have good bigs and Al Horford, I love his offensive skill set. Like Al Horford.
I do too. And that's why I think he's just been settling for the 3. You know what I'm saying? I think he needs to find a way to get a few easier buckets. You know what I'm saying? Maybe get a few mid-range and let that game really come to him. And then he can kind of step out there and knock down those open shots because he's capable of it. But he can't fall in love with it.
And it's not like Kayvon Looney's going to take him out the game. And I love Kayvon. And I like Kayvon Looney, right? But Kayvon Looney's not going to take Al Horford out of the game. So if they really slow the game, I think they need to slow the game down. I think that'll be in their best interest. Slow the game down, run through your bigs, let Jason Tatum handle the rock, let him play make a little bit, and that'll be your bet. But when them moving the ball around and taking these deep threes, and it's just getting ridiculous, and they're going to sometimes two minutes without scoring. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and turning the ball over during that time and
Mhm.
allowing Golden State to just get right back in the game, man. So yeah, like you said, I mean, I'm definitely gonna try to, when we get done here, I'm definitely gonna try to catch the second half of that game. You know what I'm saying? And we'll be right
Also,
back next week.
it's only the second quarter. Okay, so good. So that's the NBA Finals. All right. It's continuously going. So obviously, I hope you guys are watching. But we have the NBA draft that is next week, right? That's next week.
Yeah, next Thursday,
Yeah,
June 23rd.
June 23rd, right? Celebrity birthday. And we'll be live for that, right? Ira will be live for that,
Word. Let's do
covering
it.
it,
Yes, sir. Yes,
um,
sir.
tracking it. But obviously, we want to do some things. We covered 1 through 5. Covered 1 through 5 last week, and we obviously hammered through the top 5 guys. Um, Pop, or what's his name, Blanchero. We talked
Yeah.
about Jabari Smith
Jabari
Jr.
Smith. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
I had Jabari 1. I had Paulo 2. I'm sorry, I had Chet 2,
Mhm.
Paulo Banchero 3,
Keegan Murray.
Keegan Murray 4, and
Mhm.
Jaden Ivey 5.
Yeah. So I want to know. So obviously now we are at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And we got the
we,
Indiana Pacers at 6.
mm-hmm.
And
I'm
well,
interested to see what you got.
okay, so first of all, this Indiana Pacer team, um, they're a team who in the East next year, I think that they feel like going into next year, they have a chance to make the playoffs or at a minimum get into that play-in range for an Eastern Conference spot, in the East. I mean, they still got some pieces and some young pieces. They still got Malcolm Brogdon. They made the move last year, although I hated them trading Sabonis because I really love Sabonis' game. But they made the move during the season last year. They picked up Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton. As of
Mhm.
right now, they still have Miles Turner, although it's been a lot of trade talk with him. And I would love for my Bulls to get him, but another story for another day. And then they still got the kid that they drafted last year, Chris Duarte, who I think he went to Oregon last year. I think he was their first round pick last year, who's shown in some games during the season that he has some real true scoring capabilities, and they really like that kid. So I think here with the pick at 6, I got them taking Johnny Davis, shooting guard out of Wisconsin.
Ooh.
First of all, let me say this. If I think they could foreseeably go big here. So
Mhm.
if by chance Keegan Murray falls, I think they take Keegan Murray.
Mhm.
But I don't think he falls. Like I said, I had him going 4 to Sacramento.
Mhm.
So with this pick, I got Johnny Davis going 6 to the Pacers. Now, Johnny Davis, just to give you kind of a player comp, I kind of equated him to Chris Middleton. He's kind of like Chris Middleton when Chris Middleton came out of Texas A&M.
Mhm.
Some of his strengths, he can create his own shot. Even now, he can create his own shot. He can make the open three. Still need a little bit of improvement on his 3-point shot, but I think he makes the open three well enough for you to have to honor it on the NBA level. He also has a really solid motor defensively. And then, like I said, he went to Wisconsin. So anyone who knows about Big Ten basketball and Wisconsin, dating back Ryan, and then even now with Greg Gard, who's the coach now. Anyone who knows Wisconsin knows that if you're gonna play for them, you're gonna have to stick some defense. And so he's a pretty sound defender. He has a good motor as a defender. Some of his cons right now is that, and I'm gonna mention a few of those guys a little later with some of my picks a little later.
Mhm.
But at the shooting guard position, there are at the wing in general, there are more athletic guys. When you watch
This
him,
year.
his athleticism, yeah, in this year's draft.
Mhm.
When you
Mhm.
watch him, his athleticism won't quite jump out at you. You know what I'm saying? And so
Mhm.
it also makes you wonder that on the next level, how successful he'll be going against more athletic guys because his athleticism isn't something that necessarily jumps out at you. But I think, yeah, at the 6th spot, I think if the Pacers, they be excited about going and getting Johnny Davis. And then, they can just bring him right in off the bench, you know what I'm saying? Because I still see Buddy Hield as their starting two guard.
Mhm.
Indiana probably plays a 3-guard set. They'll probably play a 3-guard set as far as their starting lineup. I think they'll probably start Brogdon, Buddy Hield, and Tyrese Halliburton. So that gives them a chance to have Johnny Davis kind of come off the bench and kind of hone some of his scoring skills. And yeah, man, I got Johnny Davis 6 from Wisconsin, one of the Pacers.
And it's funny. I went with Shaden Sharp from Kentucky. A guy
Okay.
that's
Okay.
really supremely athletic, can shoot the 3 ball. And it's
Mm-hmm.
funny because I wanted to go with Dyson Daniels, but you look at Tyrese Halliburton being there,
Mm-hmm.
and they already have a distributing presence,
Mm-hmm.
in that backcourt. So I felt like Shaden Sharp will be a perfect mix with what they already have with Buddy Hield. You said they play a 3 guard set anyways, but imagine Halliburton with Buddy Hield, and you add Shaden Sharp, even if he's coming off the bench, but he really actually has a really nice 3 ball. Could be a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more consistent, but I think he would fit perfectly into what Indiana wants to do moving forward.
I think that's a solid pick. I don't want to say too much about Shaden Sharp because I'm gonna say his name fairly soon, so I don't
Mhm,
want to say too much about him. But
mhm.
I guess for me with the Pacers, um, as far as those two guys, I think that Johnny Davis is more ready to help a team right now, and because I
Okay,
think that
so you
because
feel
I
like
think
he has a higher floor.
yeah, definitely. And I think because I think the Pacers brass really believe that they have a chance to possibly make the playoffs or at least be in that play-in tournament. I think they'll just instead of going for a guy who I think is kind of a project, I think they'll rather go for a Midwest kid, and a guy that can kind of help them, right now. And like I said, offensively, he's fairly polished offensively. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, he can create his own shot. He makes the three at a respectable rate. You know what I'm saying? So that you have to honor it. And yeah, man, I just think for them they rather go with the guy who can kind of help them now.
Fair enough. Right. Fair enough. I got Shaden Sharp. You got Johnny Davis. All
All
right. So
right.
so then now we have Portland at 7.
Yes. Uh. So
Let's see if
first
we
of
got the same
all,
guy.
probably not. But first of all, let me say this. Don't be surprised, and I almost expect Portland to um trade this pick. Don't be surprised. Don't be
Okay,
surprised.
why do you feel that way?
Well, I think more than anything, Portland needs another scorer, and they need a veteran, some sort of veteran scorer or veteran wing or big. They just need another veteran presence. You know what I'm saying? I think they have enough fairly younger guys right now, and I just think that obviously Damian Lillard, although he said that he wants to stay there, he's made it known that he wants another veteran presence there.
Mhm.
So don't be surprised if they take this pick and package it with a player and they move this pick. But we're gonna go, hypothetically here.
Mhm.
And if Portland keeps this pick, I actually I was really, really kind of torn with this number 7 pick, hypothetically, if Portland keeps it. So I actually got two guys for you at this number 7 pick. You can go
Okay,
with either guy.
let's hear it.
All right. So guy number 1, you just mentioned him, Shaden Sharp. Now,
Okay.
just a little backstory about Shaden Sharp. Okay. He just turned 19 last month.
Young guy.
He's a kid. He was the number one ESPN number 1 recruit in the 2022 class. He ended up reclassifying because he graduated in November. He
Okay.
reclassified and he ended up going to Kentucky. He joined Kentucky in January, but because his draft stock was already so high, he and his people decided that it was best for him to sit out this season. And that's
Okay.
why you didn't necessarily see him play for Kentucky this season. So, I'll just go with a few of his cons right now. Okay, he's 6'5", but he has a freakishly long wingspan. Okay, he's arguably he and the next guy that I'm gonna say, I'm gonna save his name. He and the next guy that I'm gonna say who could possibly go with his number 7 pick. Both of these guys are arguably the most athletic guys in this draft.
Okay, who you got?
Shadon Sharp. I'm still on Shadon Sharp right now. Shadon Sharp. He's really effective without the ball. He's a great finisher. He has really, really high upside. Really high upside, and he has a really great potential to be a two-way player. On the flip side, though, one of his knocks is that obviously because, like I said, he was just playing high school ball last year, didn't play a lick of college ball. So they really haven't seen him play against high-level competition.
So you feel like it could be a growing phase for him?
I believe it will be a growing phase for him. So that's kind of one of his knocks. Also, at this point in time, he doesn't necessarily have the best handle in the world. So he still kind of needs a little work as far as creating his own shot. If you see him, if you watch any of his film or any of his tape, you see a lot of him, scoring because he's freakishly athletic and because he has a high motor and because he's willing to run the floor. And when he runs the floor, when he goes up, he's trying to finish through you. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a really, really athletic individual. Another reason why he stayed kind of high on a lot of guys' draft boards is because he did go to the draft combine in late April, I think that was. He did go to the draft combine, and although he didn't play in any of the games, he did all the drills and all the measurables, and most of the NBA GMs are just, they're enamored with him. You know what I'm saying? His measurables are great. Obviously, he's a freak athlete. He timed well. He tested well. So he won't be drafted outside of the top 10. He will be a top 10 pick. You can almost bank that. He will be a top 10 pick. As a player comp, the name I came up with was actually Andrew Wiggins. When Andrew Wiggins first got to the league.
Okay.
When Andrew Wiggins first got to the league, he spent a year at Kansas. When he first got to the league, there was some questions about could he make the jump shot consistently. There was a few questions about Andrew Wiggins' motor. I don't think you'll have that question about Jadon Sharp, but there was some questions about Andrew Wiggins' motor. But you can see that the athleticism was there. And so, that's kind of my player comp for him right now. I don't know if I'll let you go before I give you the other guy that I think that they could go here in this direction.
Well, I'll be honest. I wanted to go somewhere different for Portland because I think we're used to them choosing a guard. I mean, let's be honest. For the better part of 10 years, they've had Lillard and CJ McCollum, who they just traded to New Orleans. I think it's smart that they finally start building from the inside out. I had them going Benedict Mathurin from Arizona. Put him in. They have needs at power forward. I was thinking they got Nurkic at the 5, but he is. First of all, I love that the NBA, I love that in the NBA you have certain trends, and right now you have the trend of undersized power forwards that can play that are 3-and-D guys. And I think that Benedict Mathurin is, if I were to look at 2 player comps, I would look at maybe a Grant Williams or a PJ Tucker, but I think he's even more athletic than both of those guys.
Yes.
He even has a chance to possibly, I'm not going to say full time, but he could probably even, take some reps as a small forward because he's very athletic. Can shoot the 3, can definitely make some improvements defensively, has a little issue with turnovers. But I like that he's aggressive and he doesn't mind being the guy. So I think that Damian Lillard needs another aggressive presence with him scoring wise, and I think Benedict Mathurin could be a great fit piece to that puzzle. And he fit in seamlessly as a four, as more of like I guess you could say a stretch three, right? He
Mm-hmm.
can play the 3 and the 4 for him, but definitely can add some value to him as far as shooting goes.
Well, it looks like great minds think alike because that was my other person. I was gonna say
Benedict Mathurin,
Benedict Mathurin.
yeah,
For me though, I think he is more of a wing to be quite honest. I think in the NBA he'll be a little bit more of a wing. As you mentioned, he is a really good shooter. He
yeah, he
shot
is.
uh he shot 42% from three his freshman year, and then it fell
Mm,
down a little bit to 40% from three in his
mm.
sophomore year. So as you mentioned, I mean, he is a really good shooter, and he's 6'7". If nothing else, he can be a 3 and D guy for them. He also I think he's underrated as a creator on the floor. You know what I'm saying?
No,
I
he
think he
is.
can kind of create his own shot. Um, One of the things about him, like you said, he is athlete. I think between him and Shadon Sharp, I think they're probably the two best athletes in this draft. One of the things about him is that he can be a little bit out of control. Um,
He
and
turns the
because
ball over.
he does, and because of that, I was just gonna say he will turn the ball over from time to time, or because he's a little bit out of control, it causes problems for him kind of finishing at the rim.
Mm.
But yeah, he was my other pick for them. Um, I'm gonna tell you, and it's crazy enough. I'm gonna tell you the player comp that I have for him. You know, I think he can be a 3 and D guy. Um, my player comp for him because I do think he's a really good shooter. This guy's a little smaller than him, obviously, but he's also a 3 and D guy. My player comp for him was actually Desmond Bain from
Really,
it was actually Desmond Bain from Memphis.
Memphis.
Now Desmond Bain is a little smaller, but I think that when you watch Benedict Mathurin, he shoots the ball almost just as well. You know what I'm saying? And I think with
Okay,
Benedict Mathurin, I don't think at this stage in his career, I don't think Benedict Mathurin, from what I've seen, I don't think he can be the best player on a good team or on a championship winning team.
no,
But I
no.
think he can be a really solid piece, you know, for a good team, a really good shooter, a really good 3 and D guy, kind of like a Desmond Bain is for that Memphis team. And I think he's a little
He,
longer, he's a little wider, so he has more upside on the defensive end.
but true, he does. But one thing I like about one, and I just spoke about it, I could see him possibly being better as a scorer that we think he can be, because
Yeah,
he has that will and he has that aggression. Like, I'm gonna get a bucket.
he
That's what I like
does. He
about him.
does.
Yeah, he
He
does.
does.
And he's very athletic. He can do a lot more. I mean, you see, I just compared him to Grant Williams and PJ Tucker, and I think he's
Mhm.
eons more athletic than both of those guys.
He is. He is.
Yeah.
And but you know what? I think that's the difference between the two guys, though, between Benedict Mathurin and Shadon Sharp. I think, as you like to say, to use one of your terms, I think Benedict Mathurin has a higher floor. I think Shadon Sharp has a much higher
Higher
ceiling.
ceiling. Okay.
Yeah. I think Shadon Sharp has a much higher ceiling. And then also looking at this Portland team, like I said, I mean, that's why I said don't be surprised if they do trade this pick, or don't be surprised if they make a pick and then they ended up packaging this pick, you know, with a player and sending them off somewhere else. Because if you look at their team as presently constructed, obviously Damian Lillard will be coming back off an injury, and you know it's his team. Although when he was gone last year, there were a couple guys that really kind of stood out to them. The
Mhm.
main one being Anthony Simmons, who's a
Okay.
6'3" guard. Um, he really had kind of a breakout season last year. He averaged a career high of about 17 a game. He ended up missing maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season, but while Damian Lillard was out and Nurkic was out as well, so they'll be getting Nurkic back this year. But while the two of those guys are out for the majority of the season, Anthony Simmons was there. He was their best player, and he's a kid who has a lot of talent, high upside. Um, he's a really good shooter. But my thing with Portland is, as they're presently constructed, hypothetically, you know, Damian Lillard's coming back. If they do keep Anthony Simmons, not only do you have a small backcourt, but I think you're pretty much setting yourself up to have an ideal situation like you already had with CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard. And I think that's why you got off CJ McCollum, because you wanted to kind of change that dynamic.
Right.
So with the ascension of Anthony Simmons, who, you know, is really showing himself to really possibly be, he could possibly be a star in this league. That's why I think don't be surprised if you see them kind of do away with this pick and try to get some other veteran presence, or actually see what type of value Anthony Simmons could have in free agency, because he's definitely one of those kids that are on the rise. And then they still have, like I said, they got Nurkic, who will be coming back. They still have Norman Powell on the wing. If I'm not mistaken, they still have Robert Covington on the wing, another young kid that they gave some time to down the stretch, Nasir Little. They like him. So they still have a few pieces there, especially on the wing, that they do like. I just don't see them repeating that dynamic, that CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard dynamic with Damian Lillard and Anthony Simmons. So don't be surprised if you see them move this pick.
Okay. So obviously Portland has a lot of options. They can either trade out the pick, or they have some pretty good options if they decide to stay, whether it be Shadon Sharp or Benedict Mathurin, as me and you both agreed on. Mm-hmm. But let's move on. Let's look at New Orleans. Let's look at the Pelicans at 8. What was your prediction for them? What is the state of their franchise right now?
Well, obviously the huge question mark with this franchise is Zion Williamson. Will he be the same coming back? Can he stay healthy for a complete 82 game season, or at least give them 70, 75 games? You know what I'm saying? Has he matured? Can he control his weight? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Can they find a way to let he and Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum now exist, because CJ McCollum's there now?
That's a lot.
It is. I think ultimately for them to be successful, one of those guys are gonna have to kind of take a step back. I think that guy might be CJ McCollum. I think
because BI is on the rise.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't kill BI's progress.
And especially watching him in that first round series against Phoenix, the kid is special, man.
Oh yeah, he is.
The kid is special. Yeah. So I think CJ McCollum is the one who you'll see his stats maybe kind of decline, but where his stats may decline at, I think that you'll see him really try to he might be the leader of that team, the veteran voice on that team.
Okay.
You might see him step into that role. So at number 8, I had New Orleans taking Dyson Daniels. So he's a 6'7", so he can be kind of a guard and forward. The reason I have them taking him, he's 6'7". He played for the G League Ignite team last year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The reason I have them taking him is because
he's a playmaker.
He is a playmaker. He's a very willing passer, and he's very capable of running an offense. And I think that New Orleans could use a true playmaker, a true point guard, to kind of help them get into the offense. So, he can run an offense. I also got here on my notes that he's a guy 6'7", long arms. He can defend multiple positions.
Right.
He's a guy that you can argue at the draft combine probably made the biggest jump in a lot of GMs' minds. He really measured out really well in the combine, did all the drills really well. So he really put his name on a lot of draft boards. He can score around the paint as well. He has really nice touch. He has an ability to post up with his size, with his long arms at 6'7". If there are any cons to his game right now, although he's improving, he's not that great of a shooter. I think for the G League Ignite last year, and they only played about 20-some games, so they played in a couple tournaments, but I think he shot about 28% from 3, and then he shot in the 50s, 50% range from free throw line. So it leaves a lot to be desired with his shooting, especially, you know what I'm saying? on the offensive end. But I
But I
think
mean, but it's not going to be like New Orleans doesn't have shooters.
And that's what I was just about to say. I think that going to a team like New Orleans, who has guys who can put the ball in the bucket, he won't necessarily be looked upon or depended upon to be a scoring threat. But if he can be a mature facilitator for them, that'll be awesome. And I think if you look at what a lot of these GMs have been saying about him, one of the things that's been standing out about him is that although I think he's only about 19 or 20, one of the things that stood out about him to a lot of GMs is that he's very mature.
Right.
Everyone that speak to him, all his interviews, they're saying that he's a very mature kid,
So
which shows them that he has the capability of listening and learning and growing.
so he's a guy that even though he's young, you could trust him to come in and initiate your offense early on.
Oh yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's really his strength right now, just being a leader on the floor, a playmaker, and an initiator. And because of his size at 6'7", he's really is a really solid passer.
That's a
Now,
big. Hey, that's a big point guard.
oh yeah. Now he does kind of struggle going against guys that are his size.
Right.
So that might be something to kind of keep an eye on.
Well, it's
If
not
you
too
can
many. It's
have
not too
kind of
many.
uh, a bigger guy on him. However, like I said, in that New Orleans or on that New Orleans team, he won't necessarily be looked upon to score, but
Right.
he'll be looked upon to really facilitate and then make his presence felt defensively because he with his size and his wings, 6'7" with his wingspan, he can guard 1 through 3 definitely, and in some small lineups, possibly 1 through 4. And then real quick, a player comp for you. Now I dug deep for this one.
Okay.
Okay, so a player comp for you. And this is for real. This comp is for some real NBA heads right here.
Okay.
So there was a kid drafted last year by OKC. I think he went 6th overall last year. His name is Josh Giddey.
Okay.
If you're familiar with him, this is his rookie season. If you're familiar with him, he had 3 or 4, maybe even 5 triple doubles this year. And his stat line, those triple doubles didn't necessarily jump out at you because they were more, 13, 11, and 12, something like that. He's not very polished offensively. He can't necessarily shoot the ball that well, but he's a very solid playmaker. He's a very willing passer. He has the same size, same height at 6'7", and he's a guy that doesn't do any one thing great, but he does a few things well. And I think that's at this point in his career, I think that's Dyson Daniels. I don't think that there is one thing that he does great, but I think he does a few things well. And he's already a little more athletic than Josh Giddey is. So I think and I also think that he has the possibility to be a better defender than Josh Giddey is. So that was my player comp for him. For those of you real true NBA guys, he reminds me of Josh Giddey from the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Okay. So it's funny. Okay, so first of all, I'm not mad at you picking Dyson Daniels because I was looking at Dyson Daniels and I was like, man, he'd be a really good pick for New Orleans because they do need a playmaker. They need somebody that can distribute and kind of put people in the proper place. And I actually almost picked Dyson Daniels a little bit earlier, but you had to look at team needs and what is the structure of certain teams. For 8, I actually went Jalen Duran. From Memphis.
Okay. All right.
And that's because you got Zion coming back. Let's say Zion comes back. You really start to maybe build your team around some of the things that he does well. How can you take pressure off of him by putting another big down there that can really bang, that can grab boards, not force him to be your best big. And Jalen Duran is an athletic guy. If I was looking at a player comp, he's kind of like Andre Drummond a bit.
Okay.
Kind of like
All
Andre
right.
Drummond. Who Andre Drummond to me, I mean, he's still young, but I felt like Andre Drummond was possibly going to be a little bit better than he actually wound up becoming. Athletic, true big, that can do some things back to the basket. Great leaping ability, can grab boards, can guard the rim. And Jalen Duran is 6. He's a 6'11" guy, right? So he's right a shade under 6 foot, under 7 foot, right?
Yep.
So I think
really long wingspan.
Long wingspan. Great defender. So I think Jalen Duran would not only give you some some presence in the paint, but he take a lot of pressure off of Zion Williamson, and maybe you can enable him and use him more as a scorer, run a lot more of your offense through him.
That's not a bad pick at all. I actually you'll actually hear that name from me fairly soon. Fairly soon. I don't want to go too much into Jalen Duran because you are gonna hear the name from me fairly soon.
He's gonna pick him for San, he's gonna pick him for San Antonio. Watch.
That's not a bad pick at all. But I just think I don't know. I mean they still have Valanciunas. I don't know. I don't dislike that pick. I guess for me, I just think that they are afforded the opportunity to kind of take a chance on a kid like Dyson Daniels, because they're a team that made the playoffs this year without Zion Williamson.
Right.
So they have to be thinking, hey, we have to continue to improve. We got to take steps forward from here. So I think that for that specific team, although he's a bit of a project, for that specific team, I think right now he can help them more. And I think that, and I can't say this enough, I think that Willie Green is coaching those guys up, and he has those young kids heading in the right direction, and he's able to reach them. And partly because maybe he's a little younger, but he's been able to reach these kids in New Orleans a lot better than Stan Van Gundy and even Alvin Gentry could before him. So they're definitely a team on the rise, and we'll see what happens with them.
So let me ask you this before we move on to 9.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the progression of that New Orleans Pelicans team, who was at the comment?
Mr. Kit.
Mr. Kit, Isaiah Kit,
unofficial third co-host.
I swear. So let me ask you this: when looking at what the Pelicans want to do moving forward, especially when it comes to having a number 1 option, Brandon Ingram continues to get better, like every single year.
I agree,
and I know they want Zion to be the guy. But let's say Zion comes back next year. Like, in your opinion, who is leading the charge? Who's their guy? Because they made the playoffs without him. Is B.I. your guy?
I think going into next season, I think that you have to primarily run your offense through Brandon Ingram. Because Brandon Ingram is still the more polished scorer. You know what I'm saying? Now, don't get me wrong. Last year, or not last year, but in Zion Williamson's second season, when he was on the court, when he was healthy, he was getting about 27 a game. You know what I'm saying? Right. He was shooting. He's playing really good. Yeah. He was shooting, I believe, almost 60% or something from the field. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, I mean, obviously he's a load, but I mean, just looking at him now, seeing him by all reports, he's a bit overweight. And okay, we're seeing him, it was just a video put up the other day of him at a camp, and he did a little windmill. Okay. All that's fine and dandy, but when are you going to get on an NBA court? When are we going to see you in an NBA game? And I think Willie Green has to be in the mindset of, hey, we just made the playoffs, and we played the team with the best record in the NBA. We played them extremely tough. We had those guys on their heels. You know what I'm saying? It really took, a phenomenal effort from Chris Paul to really get those guys out of there. Like, Chris Paul had to go 14 for 14 in a game to really get rid of these guys. You know what I'm saying? So he has to be thinking, let me try to double back and expound on what made us successful this past season. And with that being said, I think that he has to run his offense through B.I. I think this has to be Brandon Ingram's team until Zion Williamson comes along and shows otherwise, shows that he's mature, showed that he's committed to his own health and to his own diet, and committed to the success of this New Orleans Pelican team. So I think you have to run the offense through Brandon Ingram right now. And Zion Williamson is the type of player that you don't have to necessarily run plays for him to be effective. Like, he has a pretty solid motor. He can go get the ball off the rim and put it back. He's gonna run the floor. You know what I'm saying? He can catch the ball on the wing and beat a bigger defender off the dribble and rise on him. So you don't necessarily have to run sets for Zion all the time for him to be effective.
Okay, fair enough. I mean,
But
like I said, I'm a big fan of Bi because he played for the Lakers, so yeah.
I am too, man. I mean,
Yeah.
even early on when he was at Duke, the comparison was Kevin Durant,
Kevin
obviously.
Durant.
Yeah.
Right.
And although I don't think he's that level of a scorer or that level of a shooter, he's a pretty damn
good shooter. I think watch this. I think the comparison makes more sense now.
Oh yeah. When you look at the size and the length, he has a real smoothness, a real fluidity to his game as well. I mean, obviously you can see why the comparison, but I think next year they have to start out running it through Brandon Ingram, and then just allowing. I think there'll be a little bit of a. I don't want to use the word transition period, but I think you'll see Zion have to kind of get back used to the NBA game and the flow of the game and the wear and tear. I think you'll have to see him kind of get back used to that. So I think it might be a little period where Zion is kind of slow out the gate before he actually gets it going, if he can stay on the court.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. I mean, you're not going to take a year off from the NBA and think you're going to come back and it's, shit's going to be sweet.
Even for him,
right? Who's a phenomenally talented player?
Yeah, a freak athlete.
So, okay, so that obviously that's it for New Orleans. We're now at San Antonio Spurs at 9.
San Antonio at number 9. All right.
So I'll let you. I mean, I know we already let the cat out the bag, but who do you have?
No, you didn't.
I didn't. Okay, no. All right. I thought I was.
All right. So at 9, obviously, the Spurs. We all know about them. We know what they're about.
What do they have?
Well, right now, I think it's safe to say the best player on their team is DeJounte Murray.
Okay.
Outside of him, they're really kind of devoid of talent. They got the kid Keldon Johnson, who I think they like. Jakob Poeltl, who was fairly solid for them this year, but Jakob Poeltl is going into free agency, and I think some team might, take a chance on him and pay him, a little more money than San Antonio is willing to pay him, and that kind of played a decision into my pick for them as well. So at number 9, I got a guy out of Duke, Mark Williams.
Okay.
So he's a 7'2" center out of Duke. Couple good things about him. So he measures well. He's 7'2". He has a 7'7" wingspan. So he measures well. He runs the floor well. He has a great motor, good defender. He's very quick off his feet, and he's very light on his feet. So you see him get a lot of rebounds just because he's the quicker guy off of his feet, especially on the offensive rebounding side. And it also helps him defensively because he gets off his feet so quick. He was averaging about 3 blocks a game on the season for the Duke Blue Devils. Also, another reason why I think this is a good pick is because he's leaving one storied school, one storied organization, and going to another. So you're leaving one set of professionals and going to another. You know what I'm saying? I think that when you play for Greg Popovich, he's a no nonsense guy, and I think there's a certain decorum that comes with playing with the Spurs. There's a certain culture that comes with playing with the Spurs, and I think coming from Duke, he'll be able to fit right into that culture. Okay. With that being said, right now he really doesn't have an offensive game. Like, he doesn't really have any refined post skills. He doesn't have any sort of range outside of the paint. A lot of his points come from offensive rebounding and from running the floor and catching lobs, this, that, and the third. And he obviously, okay, he's a 7'2" guy. They didn't look to him to do this, but with that being said, he's not a really good passer at all. So a lot of times you'll see him get offensive rebounds, and there'll be guys crowded around him, and you'll see him after he get the rebound, he may kind of throw the ball away. So those are some of the cons on him. He does play the pick and roll really well. Like I said, he is really light on his feet. So he does have some ability, with that guard coming off that pick and roll. He has some ability to kind of move his feet and at least kind of stay in front of him and show until, the other guard can recover or whatnot. As a player comp for him, I actually compared him to Robert Williams, who's currently playing in the finals for the
Okay.
Boston Celtics.
Okay.
That was my comparison for him. Both guys are fairly long, fairly athletic. Mark Williams is slightly taller than Robert Williams.
About 6'10", 6'11".
Mm-hmm. But they're both really, really willing shot blockers and good shot blockers. I could see Mark Williams coming to the league and getting 2.5 blocks a game for a team. And on this Spurs team, I think he can do that for him. I think he can be a rim protector for him. At this point, although I think the Spurs could use another offensive talent, at this point, I mean, he's going to be a project offensively. But I think in that system, in that culture, he'll be able to help defensively right away for the Spurs. So yeah, I think they go safe. I think they go with a good kid, a mature kid, um, a a guy who comes from another great culture and another great system, another great coach under Coach K. And yeah, I think they go Mark Williams at 9.
So I decided to try my hand at another raw big, and I
I wonder.
decided
I feel
I
like I know you're
wonder
gonna say.
who
Go ahead.
Usman Dang from
Oh,
France.
okay, from overseas. Okay.
Yeah, from
Oh,
overseas,
okay.
and
All right.
obviously we know San Antonio's history with developing overseas players,
Yeah, you know what?
and
That's a great pick. I seriously considered him for them, considering the history that San Antonio has with picking a lot of these guys from overseas. I did seriously consider him.
and the thing about him is, if you look at his game, it's not like he does anything exceptionally great,
Mm-hmm.
but he's a 6'10". He's a big ball of clay. That's what I like to call
Yeah,
prospects like him. He's a big ball of clay, but he's 6'10". He has a 7-foot wingspan, and he's athletic as hell.
he is.
Um, and and he has a nice jumper.
Yeah,
Really,
I was just gonna say he's shown some
right.
ability to be able to knock some shots down.
And he's a guy. I mean, and plus you look at the state of where San Antonio is right now. They're not going anywhere anytime soon.
They are not.
They're not.
They are not.
He's the guy. He's a guy that I think that has the potential to be a star. But if he gets in Pop's system,
Mm-hmm.
once again, we don't know how much longer Pop's going to coach, but
Agreed.
maybe give him 2 to 3 years working with this guy. I think he could really turn around and really show some of his upside sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm.
So I think right now, where you look at the state of their franchise, they're going to go for upside as opposed to immediate help because they don't have guys in place that they're going to compete or make any type of noise anytime soon. So you might as well start developing guys and start building for the future.
No, that's a really good pick. Like I said, I really consider him myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think Usman definitely has a much higher ceiling than Mark Williams does.
He does, yeah.
So no, that like I said, I really considered that pick myself. I think what kind of strayed me away from him was that, looking at listening to a lot of GMs and a lot of draft guys, a lot of guys just didn't know enough about him. And I think that's what kind of he's kind of a
unknown
wonder, unknown in this here draft. So I think that's what kind of made me kind of stray away from him. But if you watch what film that they do have out about him, if you go on YouTube and look up, Usman Ding, if you watch some of the film that they do have out on him, I mean, he definitely has a really solid set of skills that could help any NBA team. And like I said, considering the past and what Greg Popovich has been able to do with, some players from overseas, I think that would be a really, really, really solid pick for them, man. That's a good pick.
Yeah. So yeah.
All right. And then at number 10.
At number 10, Washington.
Yep. All right. So for me at number 10.
I'm sure I got a guy that okay, go ahead.
I know you don't have this guy. At number 10, I have Jalen Duran. Obviously, like you mentioned him before, 6'11" out of Memphis. Let me say this though. So the Wizards have this 10th pick. They're another team. Don't be surprised if they move off of this pick. And the reason I say that isn't so much because of them, but because and I'm sure we'll get to them, maybe next week. But they have, I believe, the Knicks are behind them at 11, and the Hornets are behind them at 13.
Mm-hmm.
Now, by most draft boards, as far as bigs go, they have true bigs, true centers, excuse me. As far as true centers, obviously Chet Holmgren, who's going to go at the top of the draft.
Right, top
first 2-3 picks. Okay. And then however you have them, Mark Williams, Jalen Duran, this kid Jalen Duran.
Top
and
8.
Then in some draft boards, you have this kid Walker Kessler out of Auburn, who, if I'm not mistaken, he led the NCAAs in blocks last year.
Mm-hmm.
So those are really the guys. Walker Kessler, I mean, you may see a team take a chance on him, but on most boards, he's a first rounder, but a little later in the first round. The reason I say they might move off this pick is because at least 2 teams behind them, one being the Knicks, the other being especially New Orleans. I mean, not New Orleans, Charlotte, the Charlotte Hornets, Michael Jordan's team, the Charlotte Hornets, especially Charlotte. They really, really need a center. Mason, whatever Plumlee, I think there's Mason Plumlee that's there. He's not the answer for them. They really could use a center. And if he's there, this kid, Jalen Duran, will be a really, really, really nice fit for that team. But hypothetically speaking, if the Wizards do hold on to this pick, I say they go with Jalen Duran, 6'11" kid out of Memphis. He's definitely more of a traditional big. He's, like you said earlier, very athletic. He has a 7'5" wingspan. He already has an NBA body. He's a very imposing kid, okay? He's a great leaper, very athletic. He's a very athletic 6'11" guy. He's a decent shooter from the mid-range as well. He hasn't shown the ability to step out and hit the three. As a matter of fact, I think they were saying that he only took 1 3 all last year, and it missed terribly. but he has shown some shooting touch from the 15 to 18, 15 to 20 foot range, which can be good in pick and pop, which shows that he has the ability to kind of, along with picking and rolling and finishing ferociously, he does have the ability to kind of pick and pop and hit that 15 to 20 footer. He's a very sound defender. He's very disciplined as a defender. You'll rarely see him getting off of his feet. He stays on his feet, keeps his hands up. He meets guys up top. Very sound defender. You won't really see him getting in a lot of foul trouble. A couple of the cons about his game, though. As far as his post game, it consists of all power. So, like I said, he has an NBA body, really big, imposing kid. But if he can't overpower you, he'll struggle to score. Also,
so he still doesn't have a lot in his bag.
Yeah, exactly. Also, and a lot of this might do with the fact that, like I said, he's a very imposing kid. He lacks touch around the rim. So if he's not dunking it, which, don't get me wrong, if he's around the bucket, 9 times out of 10, he's trying to put you in the bucket. But in those situations where there are guys around and where you see a traditional big just maybe kind of turn off their left shoulder, shoot that little jump hook, or turn off the right shoulder, shoot that little left-hand jump hook, or, a little up and under or something, he lacks that touch around the rim. So that's something that he'll definitely have to work on as he gets to the league. Maybe possibly see if he can expand that range out to the 3-point range. Ironically, a player comp for him is a player who I believe he's still on the Washington Wizards right now. A player comp I have for him, watching him, he reminds me a lot of Montrezl Harrell when he came out of Louisville. Both of those guys are very raw. If you guys remember when Montrezl Harrell came out of Louisville, he was very, very raw. I think he was drafted by Houston first. I think he played for the Rockets first. He was very, very raw. He didn't have much game outside of the lane. He was really more of a rim runner. He had a very imposing figure. He's not as tall, nor does he have the wingspan of this guy. but I just in a sense of their games and how they played with power and they had imposing figures. He kind of reminds me of Montrezl Harrell. So yeah, that's my player comp for him. As far like I said, don't be surprised if the Wizards move off of this pick. But as far as a fit, I mean, I think he could come in and possibly start for this team. Right now at center, I believe they have Thomas Bryant, who is a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
So he could possibly come in if they take him. He could possibly come in and start for this team, who has a bunch of other young talent. Obviously, we know Bradley Beal is their franchise. They'll go where he takes them. Kyle Kuzma shown that, you know what I'm saying, he can be a very, very, very nice number 2 option possibly. They still have the kid Corey Kispert, who they took last year. They still got Rui Hachimura, who they took a couple years ago. So they got some nice young wing pieces who they're still kind of developing, who they seem to probably like as a franchise. But yeah, I think they go Jalen. If they keep the pick, I think they go Jalen Duran here.
Okay. Which is fair. So I went a different way because I have this aching feeling that Bradley Beal will go.
You
I
think
don't
he'll
feel
leave?
I can see him moving.
Okay.
And it's just because I think he had so many options. And plus I think that Washington can package him and get some good players in return.
Mm-hmm.
I had them going Malachi Branham,
From Ohio State.
Ohio State,
Okay.
who I think could come in and give them some scoring ability from the guard. He can play the guard, he can play the wing a little bit. I've heard some people compare him a little bit to Jimmy Butler because he does play a little bit of defense.
Okay.
But a really good, well-sized guard, has two and obviously, well, I would say one, but two and three potential. Can score, can play defense, got a really nice wingspan, and he's a guy that can come in day one and probably play meaningful minutes for him, probably be a starter for him. Because I think for me, I just really foresee Bradley Beal not being there long term.
Wow. I mean, I guess if they did that, I mean, like I said, from all reports, Bradley Beal he's been saying all the right things. He seems as if he wants to be there. So if they did that, I think.
But I also heard he wants to win.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure he does. I'm
He's talking about ability to win. I don't see Washington winning anytime soon in that conference.
Oh no. I mean they'll be right. You know, just like last year. You know, maybe they fight for a spot in the play-in tournament.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you. I mean, I don't unless there's some substantial improvement from some of those young guys. Unless Kyle Kuzma, and I think he has the ability to do so. Unless Kyle Kuzma becomes a real, true, bona fide second option, a true 22 point per game guy, which he can. And then they get another one of those young guys to maybe take a step forward, whether it's Hachimura or Kispert.
Oh, they've been waiting on Hachimura.
Yeah. I agree with you, man. They'll be toward the bottom of the East, maybe vying for one of those play-in spots. That's not a bad pick though. If they were to move, and then I'll say this though, if they were to move off of Bradley Beal, then don't be surprised if they try to take him and move up in the draft and get one of those guys that maybe have a little higher of an upside, maybe a Shadon Sharp or a Benedict Mathurin or something, if they do decide to move off of Bradley Beal.
Okay. So yeah.
I mean, that's a very interesting pick. I had him. I have him as a first rounder, but I think I had him going a little later. You know what I'm saying, as far as in my draft or whatnot. But no, that if they were to move off of Bradley Beal, that would be a very interesting pick. Him going at number 10. But yeah, man, that's pick 6 through 10 of the NBA draft.
6 through 10. We got one more to go for you guys. We got first of all, let me look at the score.
We got Boston has, from what I've seen, Boston came back and took the lead.
What?
It was 66-64.
66-64.
They did come back and take the lead. It's gonna be a
battle.
Yeah, it is. It's gonna be a battle, man. But yeah, like you said, man, that's 6 through 10. We got one more next week. We'll come back and we'll do 11 through 15 leading up to the draft on Thursday, in which we'll be right here for it, man. So y'all definitely be on the lookout, be tuned in. And then I just wanted to say real quick, and we're not gonna hold you, we're gonna get up out of here. But I have to mention this. So, Anthony Davis, he's doing this little podcast or whatever. And he just so happens to disclose this little tidbit of information that he hasn't shot a basketball since April 5th. Mind you, today is as I look here on my laptop, today is June 13th. So that's a little over 2 months that this man hasn't shot a basketball. And let me say this, man. You know what? In a normal circumstance, I probably, I don't think for any coach, I don't think it's ideal for any coach. But in a normal circumstance, I'd probably be like, yeah, okay, whatever, okay, cool. But considering he missed a large part of the season anyway.
Probably a good 85-90% of the season.
Okay, he didn't finish the season anyway. So he's already had a break. B, considering that over the last 2 seasons, last year he shot 26% from 3, and then this past season when he did play, in the 2020-2021 season, he shot 26% from 3. And now in his previous season, the 2021-2022 season, when he did play, he shot 18% from 3. You think he probably need to get in the gym and get some shots up. And then, thirdly, he basically mentions that this is something that he always does. He's following the same off-season trick that he's always followed.
What's the definition of insanity?
When you continue to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. So, I mean, you would think this is a guy who's been very fragile throughout his career, a guy who consistently misses time. You would think that he would think, okay, let me try to take a much different approach to this offseason. He's a very, very, very important player to his team. They vastly underachieved. And everybody knows when he's healthy, he is arguably a top 5 player in this league. When he's healthy, when he's on his game. But bro, you don't, nothing in you says, maybe I need to take things a little differently this offseason. Maybe I need to watch what I eat. Maybe I need to get, hire me some new trainers or bring some more guys in or put a little more money, a little more time, a little more effort into my conditioning, into my strength training, into my body. Maybe I need to really sit down and figure out why is it that I'm so fragile? Why is it that I'm hurting something or straining something or breaking something? You would think, I already had a lot of time off. My team needed me. I let them down. We as a team let the city of LA down. Maybe I need to get in the gym. Maybe I need to keep this on my mind all summer, work a little harder, get a few more shots up. Maybe I need to figure out a way to improve my 3-point percentage. But no, what is he doing? Chilling, chillaxing. And that just goes to show you that maybe he doesn't have that love for the game or that desire to be great that most of the other greats have.
And he won a championship already.
And he already has a ring.
He already has a ring. So in his mind, he's like, man, I can cruise, and I'm an NBA Hall of Famer already. Like,
exactly.
What else? And I think that's something we have to be very realistic about. In all sports, we even heard Carmelo talk about maybe not being so in love with the game as some players are. Like he said, he played basketball because he was just good at it. And that Anthony Davis, a guy who we can both agree should probably be, and this is crazy to say, but still has meat left on the bone as a player, because there are people that believe that Anthony Davis could potentially at a time be the next face of the NBA.
Yeah.
Right. But obviously that hasn't materialized because of injuries and inconsistency. So to hear something like this, you would think that, especially after last year, as embarrassing as it was, that he would be like, you know what, something has to change. I have to literally put in a lot more work. I need to redo my entire body. I may need to pack on a few pounds, may add some muscle,
Exactly.
and
Or take off a few, whatever.
or take a
Maybe take a little weight, take a little pressure off of my joints, you know?
yeah, whatever works. But that's a terrifying thing to think about, that a guy, because I believe when LA brought Anthony Davis to, obviously when they brought him there, they won a championship with him, but they brought him there in hopes that they have LeBron, and LeBron would bridge
make that transition,
and
it
make
would
that
be
transition
AD's team.
and AD's team, and you build around him and add more stars and add more talent around him. But now it I'll be honest, man, it doesn't look like that'll be the case. It look like they'll get rid of him sooner rather than later.
It
So
doesn't seem like he wants to be that guy.
no, it doesn't. It seems like right now he just kind of wants to be. He kind of wants to just live his best life, and
for real, he's content. You know, he's made his money now. He's got his ring now. Like you said, he'll be a Hall of Famer. You know what I'm saying?
he's
Crazy
guaranteed.
enough, I was listening to Skip and Shannon. I'm gonna say this and then we can get up out of here. I was listening to Skip and Shannon earlier today, and he said some. Shannon said something, and it's kind of crazy and it's unfortunate. And as much as I hate to admit it, I might have to agree with him. Anthony Davis was on the NBA 75 players over the All-Star break.
He was.
And he said that it's honestly a travesty that Anthony Davis was an NBA top 75 player and Dwight Howard didn't make the list. And I've been so critical of Dwight Howard.
But Dwight Howard has been a dominant number one on a team that made the finals.
I was just gonna say, whether we like it or not, he was very successful as a number one option in Orlando, and he got a team to the finals. And you could say, and I've been very critical of him. I've always felt that his offensive game
was lacking.
Never developed in the manner that many thought it would or it should. But at the end of the day, I mean,
he was still a great player, which is scary, right?
Player.
Isn't that scary?
He was a 3-time consecutive NBA Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
We've never, even with the talent that Anthony Davis has defensively, we've never seen him reach that peak level. We've never seen him want to be that guy. By all reports, Anthony Davis doesn't want to play the 5. He doesn't want to play the 5. Then you see a guy like Giannis, and I love Giannis, but being honest, if you look at both players, talent for talent, Anthony Davis is far more talented than Giannis is.
But Giannis wants it more. Giannis wants
it more.
He wants it more. Hey, look, I tell people Giannis is the first player that I genuinely feel like wants it every bit as bad as Kobe and Mike did.
Mm-hmm. And he's going to go out there and work whatever his deficiencies
he's going to work on them.
He's going to go out there, he's going to work on them, or he's going to try his hardest to do what he can around it.
And he doesn't care about the politics of the NBA. He doesn't care about being liked. He doesn't care about being loved. He just wants to play basketball and win games. And one of the more respectable things that you have to look at is when they lost to Boston, he went up, he had great sportsmanship, and he went up and he congratulated them. And he wished them nothing but the best moving forward.
Last point, man. The old adage says, hard work will always beat talent when talent fails to work hard.
That's facts. And I'm like that. Trust me, I'm like that in football too. I believe that way in football.
That's across sports in general. That always hard work will always beat talent when talent fails to work hard.
Damn.
All the youth out there, all the athletes out there, y'all keep that in mind.
Anthony Davis sounded a bit Ben Simmons-ish. Ben Simmons is a regular on COD.
I mean, at least we could possibly get Anthony Davis on the court. Ben Simmons, that's another story for another day, man. But anywho, man, yet another great episode of the Rouge and Sports podcast, man. This is always a pleasure to do this with you, man. Time just flies. Time flies when you're doing something you love.
All right, do it. Yeah, 100%. Doing it for free.
Right. For the free $99. Okay.
And look, and time also goes by when you got. I hope y'all know this. I can be transparent with you guys. I've been drinking this Elijah Craig.
You know what? me and the lovely wife, we trying to, knock some weight off, because we starting to get a little out of hand. So we trying to knock some weight off, and we're trying to at least not consume an alcohol beverage during the week.
What?
So on the weekend, okay, we'll partake here and there, but we're trying during the week. So I kind of had to break tradition. It's tradition for us to just have a little drink today. But I had orange juice in my glass and I had my water today, man. So
I'm proud of my guy.
I'm trying.
Yeah, that's good. That's absolutely good. You gonna be sober during NBA draft night too?
It's a Thursday. I will be. I'm gonna be sober. It's a Thursday. I'm
all right.
Okay,
unless, well, you know what?
Unless Bay says otherwise, she's sitting here looking at me like.
All right. Well, you know what? Just since you guys are doing it, I'll join the calls too. Sometimes I drink during Rooting Sports Mondays, but once again, it's sometimes it's nice to have a nice drink, but
absolutely.
I'm definitely open to sobering up a little bit.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be tough, but hey, we'll get it done.
Yeah. So
all right, guys.
Yeah, it's been nice and fun.
Much love. Don't forget to hop on the Rooting Sports community every Saturday. What time is every Saturday?
12 p.m. 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you're East Coast, it's gonna be 3. If you're Central, it's gonna be 2. And yeah, it's fun. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we'll be right back. We'll be right back here next Monday with another live episode of the Rooting Sports Podcast. We'll be right back next Thursday for the NBA draft. And I think that's it.
Yeah. We'll cover the rest of Rooted in Basketball.
Look out for episodes of the Break Room Breakdown.
As a matter of fact,
King Tiberius.
As a matter of fact, episode 26 of the Break Room Breakdown Sports Podcast is available tomorrow. And it's very short, talking about NFL and mental health and just going a little bit more in depth with those things. But very fun episode. We got some good stuff coming up in the coming weeks. So yeah, episode 26, Break Room Breakdown, available tomorrow.
Word. There it is, ladies and gents.
It's been nice and fun on this Rooting Sports Monday. A lot of good topics and a lot of good stuff heating up. NFL is going to do a lot of good things. Obviously, the NBA Finals. We'll see how this Game 5 ends. As a matter of fact, let's catch it before it ends. Is it the fourth quarter?
It should be getting ready to go.
The fourth quarter.
I know I'm going to go ahead and watch this fourth quarter for sure.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and watch this. But once again, you guys, it's been a blessing as always. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for showing love. Thanks for supporting. And we're going to continue to bring the fire and come with some good topics and hash it out. And hey, guys, drop your comments. Let us know what you think. And and we'll be back next week.
Much love and God bless.